Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started here. Mr. Kisselback is not present this evening. He went to visit his son in the state of Washington, who is being deployed to Afghanistan. So they wanted to go visit before he left. So keep his son in your prayers and our support. Okay, we're going to open up the meeting with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and before we get started, Mr. Mayor, you wanted to have we would need a agenda change to have Aqua come up and speak in reference to their service to our community and the recent changes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yeah, we have a motion to have representatives from Aqua speak.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mayor, you want to? All in favor, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Vote
Aye.
aye.
Any against? Okay. We're good.
We have with us tonight, we have gotten calls in to the administration, my office, about the rate raise that was done a month or so ago, and I asked Aqua if they could please send somebody out. They could talk about it and let us know what's going on at Aqua and with our rate raises. So Mark Luca is here. If Mark could come up, I'd appreciate it. Mark, come on up.
And Mark is the president of Aqua, is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
It is, yes. Good evening, President Knowles, Councilman. My name is Mark Luca. I'm the president of Aqua Pennsylvania, and thank you for having us here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, certainly asking any questions, but give you a little bit of information about the service we provide to your community and the surrounding communities. But I'd like to take a moment and put into context the work that we do on infrastructure improvement. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the U.S. EPA 2015 Drinking Water Infrastructure Needs Survey and Assessment. It was published in 2018. And in this report, they identified the need of $472 billion across the United States, but also $17 billion in Pennsylvania alone. And this would be to replace and improve thousands of miles of pipe, treatment plants, storage tanks, and other infrastructure, which is vital to our public health and the economy. The assessment is conducted every 5 years. And the dollars, no surprise, increase every time they do the report. In addition, this year, the American Society of Civil Engineers released its infrastructure report in which it graded the nation's water system a D. The report card referenced a 2018 nationwide study that water main breaks have increased by 27% since 2012. And that breaks on cast iron pipe, which is the most common in Pennsylvania, have increased more than 43%. I'm proud to tell you that Aqua is doing the work highlighted by the US EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers, and we've been doing it since we purchased the Bensalem system in December of 1999. It is important to note that there are two sources of supply that serve the system. It is the Bristol water treatment plant located on the Delaware River, from which the community gets about 86% of its water. And the Neshaminy water treatment plant located on the Neshaminy Creek provides about 14%. By the way, our Bristol plant, just this year, won the best tasting water across the state of Pennsylvania. We're very proud of that. I'll talk a little bit more about rates toward the end, but I'm going to talk a little bit now about capital improvements. And I do want to say that the rates that we charge capture the expenditures rather, that we've spent already. So we spend the money, and then we go back into the Public Utilities Commission to request approval to recover that in rates. And I'll come back to that in a minute, but I do want to highlight for you a couple of projects that have been done in this area. The Bristol tank, a 2 million gallon storage tank, it was over $5 million. That was done here a few years ago. Upgrades to the Neshaminy water treatment plant, $54.8 million have been spent on that since 2002, and over $30 million since 2012. In Bristol Borough, we've spent $15.7 million and over $10 million since 2012. Bristol Township, things like services, distribution system, pipe, tanks, meters. We've spent over $72 million since 2002 and almost $45 million since 2012. We've replaced more than 43,000 feet of main. That's more than 8 miles, and that's since 2018. As a matter of fact, over the last 20 years, about 60% of our infrastructure investment is in pipes and distribution systems. And this ensures that more water that we're taking from our streams, our rivers, our creeks are actually getting to the customers. There's less water loss, much more efficient and much better for the environment. During the same period, we've replaced 1,900 miles of old water main throughout the state. We have about 6,000 miles of pipe across the state, so we've replaced nearly 1/3 of it. And again, we're seeing improved service reliability, improved water quality, and our customers are calling less to say that there are issues with the pipes in front of their house. Of course, that's once we leave. We do recognize it's a little bit of an inconvenience when we're around and apologize for that, but it is necessary. As part of the purchase of this system, there were negotiated rates, which resulted in a cost savings to Bensalem residents. Bensalem has enjoyed a rate subsidy since 1999, when it was paying about 46% of its full cost of service. Now, over the 20 years, that subsidy has reduced, and as a result of our last rate case, which just concluded here in May of this year, Bensalem is now paying its full cost of service. The rate adjustment is consistent with the Pennsylvania Public Utilities Commission philosophy on regionalism and gradualism. In other words, they don't want to see rate spikes, and they want to see rates be more regionally applied. And so what we've done collectively when we purchased the system in 1999 for these 20 years is consistent with the Public Utility Commission policy. Finally, I'll talk about rates. And I do want to say that rates can only be adjusted through an approved process of the Public Utilities Commission. That process takes 9 months. The rate case that concluded in May of this year was actually filed in August of last year. During that time, there were thousands of pages of documents that were submitted to explain and describe what projects and improvements we made and how we expend our expense dollars, chemicals, power, things like that to run your business every day. We had to explain in great detail. There were 7 public comment periods. 1 was telephonic. So for those people that couldn't physically get to a particular location, they were able to call in, be sworn in by the administrative law judge, and provide testimony as if they were in a court, and they were able to testify on what they felt, thought, observed about services from Aqua, Pennsylvania. All of that information goes into the decision of the administrative law judge. A recommendation is made, and then rates are adjusted however the Public Utilities Commission decides. Remember, we hadn't raised rates in 7 years. So our last rate case, prior to the one that was just changed here in May, was in 2012. And we invested $2.2 billion in infrastructure to address things like the US EPA said and things like the Army Corps of Engineers said, because it was extremely important for us to know, for our customers to know, that we are here, that we are able to address not only the needs of today, but into the future. Running a system today is much different than it was in 1999. We had changes from the Department of Environmental Protection on the groundwater rule, which requires 4-log inactivation. In other words, the water has to be treated for a longer period of time. Minimum disinfection requirements are now much more complicated, and as a result, we're forced to look at different ways to run the system and different ways to disinfect the water so that your water is healthy and it's safe when it gets to your homes for you and your families. When you get Aqua, you get economies of scale. But I'm proud to tell you that I'm also part of the Aqua Northeastern Seaboard Hurricane Committee. So we also rely on each other. And so the Hurricane Committee gets together about this time every year. My counterparts in Virginia, North Carolina, New Jersey, and of course Pennsylvania, we get together about this time of year and we start to talk about hurricane preparedness, because a hurricane that hits North Carolina may hit Pennsylvania. And if I have to send things down to them, or they have to send generators to me, or if we have to share chemicals or we have to share expertise, we can do that. So not only do you get our buying power in Pennsylvania, but you get the full strength of Aqua America on any one of the surprises or things that we would have to deal with as we run our systems. So again, I want to thank you for having me here. I do appreciate your time. Proud to serve this community, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may see at this time. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate you coming out and making us, presenting that. Does any council members have any questions that they have in reference to the presentation? Or?
I have one. You had stated that there was an investment of $54 million in the Neshaminy system.
The Chamonix Water Treatment Plant, yes.
Okay, well, why are you only using that 14%?
It is used to its full capacity, but the way that the systems are operated, only 14% of that comes into this Bensalem Township community on a regular basis. Distribution system improvements have allowed us the flexibility to move all of that water down into this community if we need to. So for example, suppose there was a catastrophic oil spill on the Delaware River and we had to shut our plant down on the Delaware River. We would be able to bring in water from the Neshaminy Water Treatment Plant if needed so that we could serve this community. So that only 14% is needed on a daily basis.
Got it. I guess my other point here is that you noted a lot of capital improvements, and the Bristol tank, a lot within Bristol Borough, but I didn't hear mention as far as any capital improvements right here in Bensalem.
Yeah, I didn't go through a whole list of them. I have many, many pages that I could share some key ones with you. I'm happy to do that, but I just tried to hit the bigger ones and tried to roll them up into summary projects, but I'd be happy to provide you a list. If you'd
About
like
how
to
much
see.
did you invest in Bensalem infrastructure?
Give me a moment.
You
See
said
what I have.
$2.2 billion investment, I don't know.
In Bensalem Township, I had $111 million since 2002, and it was 111 million since 2002, 70 million since 2012.
70 million
70 million, yes.
just in Bensalem.
Bensalem Township.
Well, 111 since 2002 and 70 million since 2012 in Bensalem.
Can you also, you mentioned the rate subsidy, can you just explain that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so our rates are based off of a cost of service. The cost of service is all the things that I said. So it's capital investment, it's expenses like power, chemicals, labor, vehicles, all that goes into a cost of service. Your full cost of service would be what it would be if you paid for all of that. So today, well, actually, give me one moment. Today, that would be $65 per month on the average water bill. If you were paying less than that, that meant that someone else was paying more to cover or subsidize what you were not paying for your full cost of service.
So prior to you purchasing the system, then Bensalem was subsidizing the rates?
I don't know what Bensalem was doing prior to us subsidizing it. At the time of the purchase, we agreed to keep the rates lower and gradually raise them over many years. And the fact that you were paying a lesser rate than the full cost of service meant that other customers had to subsidize that.
Or Aqua was doing it through.
or
our
Aqua was
customers.
doing. It was done through a joint type of recovery.
The PUC is the one that approves this, not the township. The township can have input as far as residents can have input, and there were meetings to do that, but we're not the ones that approve it. It's approved by the PUC, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
Now, I would imagine that spend 111 million, some of this is to prevent lead in the water, things like that, purify the water. Have we had any incidences where we had problems with this in these areas?
No, no. And you're absolutely right. The improvements that we make, either to replace old pipe, to replace any lead service lines, to put in chemical treatment, additional filtration, all of those things are meant to be consistent with the Pennsylvania DEP requirements for water quality, which we meet.
There's been recent concern, maybe not in Bensalem, but in nearby areas about contamination with PFAS in the water supply. Could you comment on that and what, the investments that you've made in the past, say, decade, how they've addressed that at all and what you plan to do in the future with that?
Yeah, so you're talking about PFAS. People refer to them as two subcomponents of PFAS or PFOA, you'll sometimes hear it called. We do monitor for that. We have sampled for it in Bristol, and we have found it to be a total of 3.5 parts per trillion PFOA and non-detect for PFAS. The health advisory level is 70 parts per trillion, as set by the US EPA, 7-0. We also monitor for that at the Neshaminy Water Treatment Plant, and our most recent sample results there were a combined 18.5 parts per trillion. So what we're doing at Neshaminy is we're feeding powdered activated carbon, which helps to reduce the amount of chemical that goes through the plant and onto the customers. In Bristol at 3.5 and then non-detect, really there would be no reason to do additional treatment there. Where we have wells that have been contaminated, we have put on granular activated carbon treatment, but that's outside of this area.
Right.
We have done that, and we're continuing to do that as systems come up in line and we start to rehab those systems as well.
And those heavier affected areas, for instance, I know Warminster was a big one due to the nearby base. Do we get any of that water supply
No.
this way in any scenario?
Not to my knowledge. The only
Okay.
water that you get here comes from, in this area, comes from the Neshaminy Water Treatment Plant or the Bristol
Okay.
Treatment Plant, Bristol Water Treatment Plant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out, and then maybe you can hang around a few minutes in case somebody off record has any questions for you, but I appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you very
Mayor?
much.
Okay, so we're going to continue. Thank you. Okay, first of all, Mr. Pizzo, do you have any changes in the agenda?
The items number 5, I guess item number 5.
4 and 5,
Which
right?
is, and 4, which are the proposed ordinance amendment and the proposed final amended land development plan for Echo Bensalem. Counsel for the developer is here this evening. They're not ready to move forward with either, as they intend to perhaps navigate through the zoning hearing board with their application first and then come back to council after that. So I believe Mr. Edelman will be requesting that both items be tabled to a date certain, in light of the calendars being what they are, probably to council's first meeting in November.
That's correct. Good evening, Greg Edelman here on behalf of the applicant. We would request that council table both matters. One can't go without the other, as we evaluate our options proceeding forward with potentially getting a variance before the zoning hearing board. So we're looking towards November as well.
And as part of your request, you're granting the township a waiver of the various requirements for consideration of the land development application under the MPC, let's say to the end of November, November 30.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So do we have a motion to move both of these items to a date certain of November 12, 2019?
I'll second it.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay. All right, now,
So those are items 4 and 5.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Everything else, to my knowledge, is still on for this evening. I don't know if Mr. Gans has anything to, okay.
Okay, we're going to have public comment on agenda items. We also have public comment at the end. But we do have someone that's, is the party here that has the assistance?
What's happened is the township received notice from an individual named Rhonda Abbott, resident of New Jersey, who indicated that she wished to attend this evening's council meeting to speak to council. She advised us that she's in need of an interpreter, an ASL, American Sign Language interpreter, and so the township has secured the services of an interpreter for Ms. Abbott. And so rather than have the interpreter here all this evening, if Ms. Abbott is here, I've spoken with Mr. Knowles, and we would allow her to present us for public comment at this time, if she's present.
Okay, that's the sign language woman? I'm sorry.
Yes, that's the interpreter.
Okay, I thought the lady with the tag was, I'm sorry. That's
Can't hear very well.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, is Miss Abbott here?
I would ask the interpreter perhaps to ask one more time if Ms. Abbott's present this evening, and let her know that she can speak now if she'd like. Okay.
Okay,
We'll have the interpreter stick around.
stick around for a little bit and see if
Just in
she,
case she's
within
running
reason,
late
if she
or-
shows up, yep.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. Next on the agenda would be approval of council minutes for the meeting dated July 8th, 2019. Do we have any changes that are needed? I didn't see any myself, but Ron, do you have anything on here? Okay. Okay, anybody else?
I don't have any changes, but I was hoping, and this might be unrelated, we can ask later, but for an update from Mr. Neeren on the issue of the properties along Humeville Road that Mr. Snyder is developing. It was promised at the last council meeting, and I just want to follow up. It was mentioned in the minutes, that's why.
Okay, I thought he had.
We can do it later if it's.
Okay, yeah, I thought there was a letter to that effect. Okay, so we can deal with that, but a public comment, I think there's people here, so, okay, so is there any changes to the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. 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 Okay, next, number 6, so 4 and 5 were moved to a date certain of November 12th. Number 6 on the agenda, consideration of final amended land development plan for the Lennar MMP for their mixed-use development for Waterside. Phase 2.
Good evening, Greg Edelman here on behalf of the applicant. I did bring my PowerPoint, but I see we don't have our computer today.
Yeah, apparently the PowerPoint thing is not operating, and that mic, the spare mic, that mic works, that does not.
This one is working?
Yes.
Okay, great. We were here in June, I believe, on this request. This is a request to change the phasing lines of an already approved and under construction plan. And at that meeting in June, there were neighbors from the existing homes in the development who came forward and expressed a number of concerns and complaints with respect to miscellaneous items, including warranty issues, also potential drainage issues, stormwater drainage. Subsequent to that meeting, the Lennar team, representatives of whom are here this evening with me, and I believe also your township engineer, had multiple on-site visits as well as remedial work done to address those issues. I think we were supposed to be on an earlier meeting, but because of some cancellations, we're now here this evening, again renewing this request to just change the phase line. Other than that, nothing else is changing on the plan. We believe this phase plan is better than the one that's already approved that we could proceed under. We just think it creates a more orderly development to the overall layout of the property. And there were also some buildings that were shifted in the area, I guess you can see towards the bottom of the plan in that location. So we were here to try to get those minor changes and the phase line approved. One of the issues on the plans that came up that was cited in Ron's letter was that there were, in the multifamily units, 148 units listed when only 144 were approved. That was a typo. So we've revised that plan and sent it back to Ron, so now it says 144 as we had discussed at that meeting. Other than that, there's nothing else that's changed on this plan. We'd like council to approve the amendment to the phasing line so that we can move forward. There are multiple improvements that are being delayed on this, including the state road improvements, the trail improvements, and obviously getting to developing the waterfront as well. So, but we are here this evening to answer any other questions council may have, and we can go through all the efforts that we've made since the last meeting to try to address some of the concerns of the residents as well.
And the water issues that the one couple that was here had, that you were in the process of repairing or addressing, that was addressed?
Yes, and Dan Stewart from Lennar is here. He was on site doing those changes, and I believe Quentin may have been on site as well to inspect on behalf of the township. So
They've
they're,
already started working on the state road improvements. I was down there today, I saw that they're putting in the piping.
That's
and
correct.
Getting all the
They're-
drainage ready to go and get that squared away.
that is correct. And we also executed a memorandum of understanding dealing with the trail improvements in order to move them forward as well, to create that connectivity that I believe is warranted under this project.
Could you speak to what you've done to resolve the issues that were brought up at the last meeting? please?
Sure, and I'd like to bring up the
Absolutely.
people from Lennar. So I guess Dan and Jody and Sam, and I don't know what order we want to take these in, but let's start with Dan, dealing with the drainage, since that seemed to have been the most
Yeah,
serious one.
that was the most egregious. So.
And we discussed. So Dan, if you could discuss what was identified as the issue, what was the fix, and what did the township say when you put it in, and then we can ask Quentin as well to confirm.
So what we identified first was
Dan,
there
can you
was,
state your name yourself?
I'm sorry, Dan Stewart, I'm with Lennar.
Okay.
Okay. What we identified first is there was some drainage conveyance within the Muse area that wasn't being collected, so it was being concentrated into one area. So what we did was we had some subsequent drainage locations to better disperse that water load, so to speak. So it wasn't concentrated to one area, it was spread out throughout and collected and captured and conveyed into the storm system. Quentin and his folks were out to observe.
Okay, so is it functioning properly now, and the
Yes.
people aren't getting the flooding they were
That is
getting?
correct.
Now, were those improvements, were those optional in the original design? Were they included in the original design?
No,
Some
actually,
confusion on that.
excuse me, not so much as optional, more so as a corrective action. So what we did was we determined that was a better course of action to actually collect them in certain smaller areas rather than concentrating to one location.
Okay. Now, I asked this question at the last meeting, and I'm curious to see if the answer has changed at all. Are you going to change the way that you do future construction, for instance, in Phase 2, in light of this issue that it might occur again? Are you prepared to deal with it, if you have excessive localized flooding, that you could put in additional storm drains to accommodate it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that's a common practice in construction. If we find an area is deficient, or we find an area that is not functioning per the approved design, then of course we make modifications in order to correct that action.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, could we have Quentin come up and just verify that you witnessed the changes and that it's functioning properly?
I want to add that Mr. Benner from T&M was also at the site.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually met down at Royal Muse. I forget the date off the top of my head. I believe it was a couple days
We all
after
know
that
you, Quentin.
meeting.
You state your name so people know.
Quentin Neron,
Okay.
T&M Associates.
Okay.
There were several yard drains installed in that area, like he was saying, just to collect that water instead of going to one location before it got to the existing drain that was there. So they were new drains and pipes installed periodically for each individual unit to collect their individual water,
Okay,
is what the outcome was.
okay,
And we've had our other inspector was there after a rain. The only little bit of area was like in the mulch area, which is common at the edge of the grass area. He is going to be going down there, trying to get down there during a rain event to see, make sure everything is not concentrated anywhere. So,
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do you want to address the other issues that were,
Jody, why don't you come up? Or Sam, you want to come up? Okay. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, Sam Carla with Lennar. Tonight, I brought along Jody McCool, who's our Director of Warranty. So Jody's just going to talk to you a little bit about our process when a call does come in. But as far as the items that were of a concern from that homeowner, last time we were here, we took care of all their internal, inside the home issues, which at the time really I think was just a painting of a closet door, which has been handled, and I believe all other items that he was concerned about have been addressed. So we do get warranty issues, that we get calls all the time for it. Jody will talk to you about just our process of how we handle them. But to date, we haven't had any other complaints that nothing's getting done, so.
okay, yeah, she can come up with it.
Yeah, Jody?
Hi, I'm Jody McCool with Lennar. So our process with the Mignotti homeowners is we have started an internal spreadsheet. And what we're doing now is I have a rep that is assigned to that community. Weekly, we have meetings with the new home counselors. Eileen and Jerry, they were with Mignotti, so it's a nice transition because if a homeowner comes in to the sales office, we're able to get the information from Jerry and Eileen, and I send my rep out there immediately to schedule a meeting and get their items resolved. So we keep a spreadsheet. We've got plenty of the homeowners that we've already completed. We have some that we're working on currently, and then we have some homeowners who still really haven't reached out to us yet to resolve their warranty issues, if they even have any.
So you're in the process of taking care of the people that are actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody that contacts us, we call them within 72 hours. We get out there and schedule our appointments. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a couple items. Just one comment. I was down there when we met previously, so I did see all the work that you were doing. So I certainly wanted to say I certainly appreciate you taking ownership of some of those problems down there. So I saw you guys doing a lot of work. And I do have, since then I've received one concern about some sidewalks that are lifting. And I guess my general question to you is, how confident are we, or can we be, that you're going to continue to this level of service with these residents when we see some of these complaints come in?
The service is going to continue. I mean, there's not going to be any change whatsoever. We are committed to being there. And like I said, my rep is assigned to that community specifically. So the service is just going to continue as it is.
And I think I met her. Is she there?
Joelle.
Yeah, is she there full-time?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's
yeah.
on site full-time?
She's on site. That's her home base because there's that trailer still in the back. So that's her home base. She's on site. A lot of the residents already know she's there.
Okay.
So she is there daily pretty much. So.
Okay.
Your two salespeople are there are very good.
Eileen and
very hard
Jerry.
workers, yes. And,
Yeah.
they have a good rapport with the people that are buying the houses. I was down there one time, and it was nice to see the interaction that they had. Any questions that people had, they were answered, which to me was very a very good thing to say.
Yeah, it was, keeping them on board with Lennar was just, it made it a smoother transition for us. I've known Jerry and Eileen even from past jobs that we've had together. So, and like I said, they communicate weekly with Joelle. And they're talking about any residents that come into the door who may not really understand how to process a complaint through lennar.com or calling my customer care line, my admin in my office. So, okay?
Sounds like you've made a lot of improvements.
We have. And I brought a couple extra spreadsheets if you wanted to see them or you wanted one for your office, just to know of the names and everything, just let me know.
Another question, the water system, the sewer, I guess, or whatever you're doing there on State Road, is that going to be completed prior to the start of Phase 2?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Jim. Dan will tell you. And Ed, with respect to the, site improvements, with Dan here and Quentin, I mean, that's where those types of issues can be raised. If there's a sidewalk
Yep.
that's spalling or lifting, you can either tell Quentin or Dan, and somebody will get out there
Yep,
to
sure.
fix it. Obviously, they don't want a safety hazard, somebody
Yeah,
tripping over.
Agreed, thank you.
Can you repeat your question again, sir?
The work that's being done there on State Road
Yeah.
for water management, is that going to be completed prior to starting Phase 2?
Yes, it's actually in conjunction with. It's all tied together, so that whole system is going to be connected and conveyed to the on-site drainage systems.
Okay. Was that also part of the Phase 1 project? Maybe this is more of a question for Ron. Are all the systems complete except for that one?
No, they are continuing.
It's a,
along.
yes,
Okay.
Following the project.
right, it'll follow the project itself, so it just so happens that the road improvements in front of the project will complete one portion of that, and then that'll connect to Phase 2. Then we'll also have another connection itself when we convert and construct Phase 3.
Got it, okay.
And that's going to work together with PennDOT, with the road work they're going to be doing down there.
Yes,
and
it
the
is.
Blacktopping that they're going to be doing down there. So all that'll have to be completed in order to do that work.
Yes, it does.
Okay, is there any other questions from council?
One other, Mr. Pizzo, this approval they're looking for, is this specifically just for Phase 2?
Yes, the developer already has an approved land development plan for the entire project. What you're, as I understand it, and Ron or Greg, please correct me if I say something that's wrong, what we're doing through this amendment is going from what was roughly 10 or a dozen smaller phases and redrawing those lines so that Phase 2 will now be a much larger phase overall, as will Phase 3.
Right. And this is what we've shown on the plan on the second sheet. This is what council's approving, just this
Okay,
Phase
just
2.
Phase 2, okay.
We'll have to come back in for subsequent phases and repeat this process again.
Okay.
That'll also give you the opportunity to continually recheck to make sure we're maintaining
Yeah.
the level of service that council
And I'm glad you brought
wants us
that
to.
up. Just one further question. The additional work that you're doing in Phase 1 to mitigate some of the standing water that was there, are you also going to be then implementing that into Phase 2 and putting those sub-drains
If
into-
necessary, yes. So we'll do it by case-by-case basis again, and the township will have a role as we go through the inspection process. If we notice the overconcentration of the water, then we'll remediate it and come up with a solution. It may be something different, it may be the same. We'll have to see, and then work together with your township engineer on the best fix.
All right, well. 'cause
Hopefully
if you
it won't.
don't, you're not getting Phase 3 approval.
I was going to say, if we don't, I'm going to come back multiple times on Phase 3. I understand.
Learn your lesson the first time.
That's why I'm only here a second time.
What's the expected time frame for construction of Phase 2?
What's your time period?
To start, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Well,
As far as to start
total duration for
From-
Phase 2?
From Phase 2, from start to finish,
Yes.
probably about a year and a half.
Okay.
Actually-
And when would you plan on starting? Pretty much immediately?
We actually would like to start it within, the next 90 to 120 days.
Okay.
And that's weather permitting, correct?
Yes.
Well, we don't really factor weather into our business plan, unfortunately.
No delays.
Okay, Ron, and this change for the 144 units to be correct, was corrected properly, I assume?
Yes, there was initially 148, but 4 of those have already been constructed over the retail site at the entrance.
Okay,
So there's only 144 remaining.
In this
To
phase,
be
okay.
built by others.
Okay, is there a question? Is there someone else that wants to come up and speak in reference to, okay, come on up, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Kate McQuillan. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a current senior citizen. I reside at 151D Prince George Street in the Waterside Development. And I don't really know where to start. I wrote a few things down. I do hope that what Lennar is saying tonight is true, but I have not found that to be true so far in the 2 years that I've lived there. I own one of the 4 condos in the mixed-use residential retail building. I have half of the 3rd floor, which is, there's 2 units on the 2nd floor, 2 on the 3rd, and there'll be the new Waterside Cafe is soon to be opening there on the 1st level. I purchased this because I did want one-story living, and it's great. and I love living in Bensalem, and I'm very happy living in Waterside. The residents there are fabulous. It's just been great all around. However, I have not received from the builders what I was promised and what I have already paid for. I made settlement over 2 years ago, like I said, in June of 2017, and I currently still have 3 serious and important outstanding items from my move-in list and my one-year items. I was kind of caught up in the transition between Magnati and Lennar, but I was assured by both Magnati and Lennar that these items would be taken care of. I can go over these items if you like, and one of them is very serious, and it could be structural. And it was fixed in the other places in the building. It was not fixed in my unit, partly because the girl that lived below me, the original girl, she passed away. And she was very upset about what her and I had moved into in this building. I arrived from California with a truck. I was told that this building was complete. It was not. There was a hole in the wall instead of an elevator. It took 4 months for that to be resolved. I had many outstanding items. It was just unbelievable. I worked in real estate in California. I'm beginning to work in real estate here in Pennsylvania, and I've never seen anything like this. And the homes that I purchased in Pennsylvania, or the 3 builders that I purchased from in California. And I'm sorry, but I'm rather upset because it has been a 2-year struggle, and I'm very weary. And it's wonderful that they are now saying they will do this, and there has been some attempt, but even in the, what was it, maybe 3 weeks ago, since they did have the other meeting, and the girl with the drainage problem did get the attention, and Joelle is very good. I have to say, she's excellent. But to my knowledge, she works at Waterside 1 day a week. She has other developments throughout the Philadelphia area that she's involved with. And she has scheduled some of my repairs, but nothing's been done, just like the last 2 years. The one thing that was scheduled, the man didn't show up. I pushed and pushed and pushed. The man showed up. They're going to look at it again. They're going to come up with an idea of how to fix it. It doesn't get fixed. That's a water issue on all the windows in my unit. The other flats in the building, they call them, the condos, they do not have this problem. It is not condensation between the panes due to a broken seal. It is water on the inside that you can wipe away on every window in my entire unit. It's creating sills and other problems with the frames and water damage. The other thing is the shaking of my entire unit, like I said, was repaired. Trusses and beams were added. The ceiling was taken out on the other units, and they say that they're going to look into correcting that. The other thing is I paid for upgraded materials for a wood impression tile to carpet to be considerate of my downstairs neighbor. I haven't lived in that situation for many years, and here I find out, well, I walk in and the carpet to the wood impression tile is way off level and there's a gap. And I find out that the reason there's a gap is the subfloor is not the same on one side to the other because a sound barrier was placed under the tile. Had I known that, I would have, done it through the whole thing. It's just been kind of crazy. And those are my personal little problems, but they add up to a big problem when you consider that I've had many other problems that I did push and they did take care of them. So, as I said, sometimes people show up to look at it. Sometimes little things are fixed. But these 3 items are pretty important. And in addition, because of the shaking, my front door now will not lock. And we also have a problem with the entrance to the building. The door has issues, and sometimes that's opened an entire weekend. And now, my place, when you get up to mine, and anybody can walk in there, I cannot lock it by the bolt or the doorknob because the shaking has moved the position of the door, I suppose. So, anyway, the last time I ran into you, Mr. Mayor, at the farmer's market, which I love, and I love everything in Bensalem, I truly do. And again, I really like Waterside. I really do, and it has the potential to be amazing. But right now, all these warranty items for myself, or these move-in items, or these little things, there are many other residents that have this. Every time I take a walk when I go to check the mail to clear my head and walk by the river, I run into people with all kinds of issues. So I would suggest that you do check to see that the drainage was corrected. I don't know, and I know that couple had to be out of town to get their daughter to college. So anyway, Mr. Mayor, you told me that if I needed you to let you know. I want to let you know that I do need your help along with the entire council. to see to it, I'd like to ask that you continue to see to it that the residents like myself receive from the builder what we have been promised and what we have already paid for. I thank you for your time and your concern for the residents here in beautiful Bensalem. Thank you. And again, I have my items, and I know there are other items, and they are starting to say they will work on these items. But that's what I've been hearing for 2 years.
Okay, well, we're going to try to make sure that they get
Okay, thank you
addressed.
very much. Appreciate it.
Can we find out from the Lennar people what's going on here,
Yeah.
what the time
Yeah, do you
periods
know?
are,
Absolutely.
please?
Okay, so anybody could,
So I'm just going to start off, and then Jody will talk to you about the warranty issues. So she purchased this home from Mignotti, not from Lennar. She closed her home under Mignotti, not Lennar. So the agreement that we have with Mignotti is that certain items, warranty items, we would take care of that were 12 months prior to when we closed. So some of those issues are being addressed by Mignotti, at least that's my understanding. We've reached out to Tony Magistro, who was their site construction guy, and I know he's trying to take care of some of those repairs. But in the meantime, we've also been trying to assist with some of those repairs, and Jody could talk about that. Jody knows exactly what's going on with the warranty issues here, so she can get into more detail. But I just want to make it clear that this was not a homeowner that bought from us or closed from us. It was all under Mignotti's watch. As a matter of fact, they still own that first floor of the building that, I forget who's moving into that, but the Waterside Cafe. So just wanted to let you know that, and Jody will give you the specifics on the warranty issues.
yeah, what's being done now to help this?
I don't know about the door, the main entrance door to getting into your unit. I haven't heard anything about that. Recently, there is a homeowner, and I believe it's the second-time homeowner that lives beneath you, correct? Yeah. So I think with your help, we actually were able to finally get in touch with this woman.
Yeah.
Because basically, we need access to this woman's home in order to make the repair that she was speaking about with her subfloor. Her subfloor is bouncy. Tony, who was with Mignotti, has joined us as a contractor to help us resolve this issue that Mignotti has not completed for this homeowner right here. So we are well aware of it. So it is the subfloor issue, and it's a window issue too, I believe.
There's 2 flooring issues.
Yeah.
My entire unit shakes.
Correct.
The entire unit moves.
Yes. So we.
And also, the flooring is improper.
Okay, well, we can't
Okay, so so finally, we were able to get in touch with the homeowner who lives beneath her, and we have been trying diligently. So what we're doing now with Tony is they're getting in there, apparently they already have a repair for this, so we're gonna be scheduling the time to get in there and make this repair. So Lennar is going to take this and see it through for her, even though Mignotti hasn't completed it. Also, as well as the finishes in her home, I'm sorry, I can't answer to the flooring that she received, whether it was an upgrade or not, because that she didn't purchase from us. And she closed in June of 2017. We purchased Mignotti in July of 2018. But we are going to get into her home. I'm well aware of it. As far as Joelle is in Waterside more. She does have another community up the road, but there's no closings in that community. So she just oversees the warranty from the trailer in Waterside. So I don't know the exact schedule date, but I can make sure that we follow up with Tony to get that for the homeowner. Okay.
Mr. Gans, is there an agreement that's on file of what Mignotti is keeping and what Lennar is taking?
Yes.
Do we have that on record?
There is, in the agreement, there is a list of homes, and I put them.
I was
Oh, I
asking the
apologize.
engineer.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not aware of that. Maybe Mr. Pizzo has the agreement.
Mr. Pizzo, are you aware of anything?
Insofar as who is responsible for warranty items, no, that's not anything that the township would routinely be involved in. We're not in.
Not what I'm asking. They still own all the retail space. They own the retail store with the condos above it. It's all
yes,
supposed to be one project.
I believe somewhere in the building, there's a copy of what is still owned by Mignotti and what is still owned by, or what is now owned by Lennar. Yes, that is somewhere in the building.
And shouldn't that be a part of the record here, since Phase 1 is part of what Mignotti started and what's there? Shouldn't that be noted somewhere here in the plan?
I don't know if it necessarily needs to be on the plan for Phase 2, since Mignotti doesn't have any portion on the Phase 2. but to the extent that it needs to be of record in the township, certainly we can note it somewhere. I'm not sure how you would do it other than in the development agreements, which I think recite the backgrounds of the project and who started what. But I don't think you would note on the Phase 2 plan that Mignotti has, responsibility in Phase 1.
Well, what phase is the retail space? That's phase 3?
Phase 1.
It's the-
No, that's one part. There's further retail also,
Right.
and that's in
That's
phase
correct.
3, right?
That's,
It's in Phase 3, but I don't know, I couldn't give you a timing or a schedule.
I'm
when
not
that
asking
happens.
for that. I'm
Okay.
asking where it is on the plan saying that that's owned by
Yeah.
Mignotti and not by you.
Yes.
I mean, these are part of the problems here. We're going we're coming and fighting with you for something for these residents that's really something that's Mignotti, and Mignotti should be here. I just want to make sure that it's all legitimately on the plan to go after the people that need to be gone after.
and what we have done on the overall plan is we've shown those areas that are to be constructed by Mignotti in the future in a gray area, since we don't have any ownership interest in it.
This is the commercial piece that you're talking about, Phase 3.
That's the one that goes, the roadway that
Yes.
goes straight down. It's supposed to be a restaurant and all the stores. That's part of phase 3.
Right, well, yes, Phase 3, but I don't know when he's gonna come in and actually do it, so we're gonna come in for Phase 3 eventually, but I
Right.
don't know when he's actually.
But I think what
So is
Councilman
that
Clary
being
is.
constructed during Lennar's plan, phase 3, or just at some point in the future?
Some point in the future.
Okay.
So
not
right now
tied
it's,
into your phase 3
yeah,
plan?
right now on the approved plan, it's a different phase number, okay? Because the original plan had multiple phases and subphases. Lennar has tried to consolidate those to make it more orderly and more intelligible, for lack of a better term. So yes, it'll be in a future phase. Right now, we're showing it in that phase, but we wouldn't be the ones coming in with it. So
But it's
that,
part of your project. The overall project is part of this overall project.
It-
That's why I'm asking. So whether it's yours or not yours, it's still part of the overall project and it has to do with what's going on.
that's correct. And that's why on an overall plan, we're showing it. When we discussed on what gets recorded on each phase, though, we're just coming in with the phase, we could continue to have what I call an overall development plan that would show all of this, that can ride through each one of the phases, as we did here. We submitted the overall development plan and just the standalone phase. Only the standalone phase will get recorded, but in the township's files, you'll continually have the overall development plan showing who's responsible for what.
Mr. Pizzo, there's a problem with doors not being able to be locked, which is a public safety issue, whether it be downstairs or getting into the house itself. That has to be handled by somebody. It can't be people pointing fingers at each other. It's got to be something that is handled now. Is this something that could be done and charged back to Mignotti, or do we have to get Mignotti in here and find out exactly what's going on? Because this lady has a legitimate gripe. I mean, if she's not safe in her house because the doors don't lock, there's a problem.
We can do that.
Well, and if not anything, maybe you guys fix it and bill
That's-
them for it, because
Typically, that's what's happening.
this lady deserves the repairs that need to be done. Somebody's got to do it. If Mignotti's not going to do it, I'm asking you guys, as Lennar, to take care of this problem and keep this lady safe.
We agree.
And Ms. McCool, you've addressed one of the 3 major items that she's listed, regarding the subfloor. Do you have any information regarding the windows or the structural shaking, instability issue?
I don't, because I don't have the plan or the layout and what the repair is, Has
Has that complaint been filed with your office, though?
It has.
Okay.
So, which is, like I said, we just got in touch with the new resident below her. So now we're finally getting cooperation with her so that we can make these repairs for the homeowner.
Can we get,
Promise?
let us handle our thing up here, please. Can we get a commitment from you in a reasonable time period? How
Absolutely.
we can get to this, get it fixed?
Absolutely.
So this lady and everybody else in that building are going to be safe? What kind of time period are we looking at that we can get that fixed? And we're going to hold you to it, so.
I'll make sure that we get in there in the month of September and get it repaired as long as we have the structural repairs. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
I
the
mean,
lock,
that
I'll
has
make
to be
I can have somebody swing by there this week and take care of that lock. And
And-
I guess it's to the building, so,
Can I say
not a
one
problem.
little thing about the door?
Yeah, come back up, please.
That front door has been repaired numerous times, supposedly. The last I heard, and no one told me this officially, but he told one person that somebody's putting the key in wrong. The locksmith said that, but we never received anything from anybody to tell us that. And one of the younger girls, the daughter of someone, she knew how to do that. Now, I just happened by weird chance on my way over here tonight, Candy, who lives below me, said the front door's out again. So my other neighbor on the third floor, he travels quite a bit around the world, and he has tried to get us to get a whole new door or a system. Nobody really, we have doorbells, but no one can get in that building except for when it's unlocked. So we were going to try to come up with another system. But all I wanted to say right now to you is it'd be great if someone comes out, but that someone has been out, I would say, between 5 and 7 times in the last 2 years. This is a continual problem with this door.
Maybe we can have Quentin involved in this, or our engineers will get involved now and be part of it. So
Yes.
they're going to be keeping track and making sure that this gets done, it gets fixed properly. And if there's a public safety issue, please call the township. Let the mayor's
Okay.
office know.
All right, I sleep with a hammer and a chair under my doorknob.
We want you safe, and it's got to be done. That's not good, so.
And the one other thing, now that I have the podium, we were told by both McNaughty and Lennar that there would be a transition, and McNaughty and Lennar would work together, and because I was caught up in that 1 year, McNaughty told me and Lennar told me that they would take care of these items, so I'm a little bit confused as to why it's a McNaughty problem versus a Lennar problem. And McNaughty will be back in the picture for other phases and for other building. And it very much concerns me because I came here very, anticipating this wonderful experience, and I feel like I haven't been able to get on with my life for 2 years here. And some of it is so upsetting that you just can't even, you don't know what to do about it. So again, I appreciate you're going to take care of the door. It sounds like the shaking of the unit, which is always scary to me also. I'm afraid to have any people over. But I really appreciate you trying to help me with this. And it's not just me. There are many people that have these items, and I don't even want to call them warranty items. These are items from when we moved in, or the little odds and ends that you discover within the 1 year, and they're not little items.
As far as your project, Lennar has just agreed on the record that they're going to get the things done that need to be done at your building by the end of September.
Can we reinstate what those are, so I know that for sure what I heard or what's on the record? They're going to take care of the shaking of the unit. They're going to take care of that front door not locking properly.
Correct.
They're going to address my windows, and they're going to take care of the level of the floor being off.
They agreed to take care of all the
All
issues that
three
you had
items,
with the
they have
building.
agreed to that,
so
and that's on the record?
That's on the record.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And again, I also want to make sure that my fellow citizens, my neighbors, their items are taken care of, because I meet girls that are younger than me, and they're told, oh, you have to live with that. No, they shouldn't be living with some of these problems.
There are things that council usually doesn't handle.
I
We don't get
understand that.
involved in that. We did with this because of the
Thank you.
transition of the two companies.
Okay.
So on a regular basis, it would be handling with the builder or handling in
Okay.
civil court. But we want to make sure that the transition, so do the people from Lennar, to make it so that you have a fantastic stay
Yes.
there, and the rest of the rest of the development goes as well.
Yes.
Because bad news travels
Yes.
faster than good news. So-
Yes, and I want to state that again. This is a wonderful idea, a fabulous community. I don't know where you're finding the people to move in there, but one's nicer than the other. So this is going to be a wonderful thing, and, the entire length of the street will be taken care of, or, rezoned, and it's going to be fabulous. But this is very upsetting, and I'm actually working in real estate. I'm afraid to bring anybody here, but I want to.
Quentin, our engineer, will be down there working with them to make sure these things get done.
Okay.
If they don't get done by the end of September, I'm sure we're going to see you back here and letting us know, but they've given us their commitment on this.
Okay.
And if they're not going to do what they committed here, they still have a Phase 3 plan that has to come in, and that'll be
Okay.
taken into consideration.
Thank you very much.
Anybody
And
else- anybody
I
else
want to
that-
thank
Anybody
Mr.
else
Ed.
that you run into that has a warranty issue, you should send them over to the warranty and make, let them follow up with them.
And where exactly is that? To Lennar?
This girl here,
Yeah.
Lennar.
Yes,
here.
and again, Joelle is very professional, and she's trying
Okay.
very hard.
And if she needs to be there a second day, then maybe maybe we need to do that.
She's one day. So, and they can always stop and send them to.
And where is she? Where is she?
Send them to, she sits in the back.
Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, I don't
I'd
think
rather
Jerry
people
and Eileen really want to see us.
They don't.
All right, can we finish, you're going to have to
Okay,
finish
thank you.
this discussion.
Thank you
Ed,
very
you have a
much.
question for somebody else?
No, I just have one comment. Mayor, we brought in Aqua this evening. And on the same note, would it be a possibility to reach out to McNaughty and have them come in? I mean, this isn't the first time that we've heard about these warranty issues, and we're pushing Lennar hard, and I certainly appreciate the fact that we're riding on the commitment that they're going to fix some of these problems. But on the same note, we should probably be pushing McNaughty just as much to make sure that they're taking care of Bensalem residents with respect to the warranties.
Doesn't Mignani still own the last phase?
Yeah,
Yes, they do.
the retail.
So could we reach out to them and bring them in here?
So they gotta be held accountable for what they're doing.
And Lennar's going to lean on them too, I would imagine, if they're not doing their part of the.
I've reached out to the folks that I've been dealing with at Mignati, and honestly, when it comes to these type of issues, I don't get a response all the time. So if there's a way that you can invite them to come to a council meeting,
Okay.
that might be.
Well, I put the request in with the mayor.
The council meeting isn't the place for those things to be.
Oh, then maybe.
Well, then why did Aqua come out then? I mean, if there's...
Aqua's not a warranty situation.
Well, I understand that, but we had residents complaining about a rate increase, right?
Yeah, that's-
So in the same note, residents are being affected by warranty issues, and
That's warranty.
we should bring them in here.
He just came to explain what happened, and I brought it up. The PUC is what approves this, not Bensalem.
And that's fine,
So they
but
had they had the time that they could go and they could state their case to the PUC when they had the hearings. There's nothing this council can do about that. There's nothing this council can do about this. We're trying to help. It's really a civil matter, not a township matter. And Lennar's willing to work, just like Aqua was willing to come here and explain what happened and how the process happened and what went on, so people were more understanding. But the meetings were there, and the people had the chance to come out and speak their mind. And if they did, that's fantastic. But the PUC is the one that makes that decision, not us. Lennar's willing to work with the residents to get the things done, and they'll have to take it up with Mignani. But I do believe that we need to find out, before going forward, what Mignani's going to do, how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, and make sure that people down there don't have to go through this again.
Okay, so then why can't we invite them in and ask them that? Great, okay.
Okay, so hopefully they'll deal with it. But we're dealing with Lennard tonight, okay, for phase 2, which is not anything with Lennar's section. We're not
That's
doing
correct.
Commercial in phase 2.
That's correct.
Or anything left on the, okay, is there anybody else from the audience that need to speak? Is there any other questions? Okay, so we're talking about the phase 2 continuing, which has been delayed a little bit, but you have your commitment tonight on the record that you're going to continue to address these warranty issues.
Yes, that's correct.
Which again is good for your overall business also.
Absolutely.
And to me, if you made a deal with McNaughty about that, you should be going after them too. I mean, even legally.
I assume we will be at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else? Is there anything, Ron, anything in your letter that needs to be addressed? It looks like it's all,
No, I think everything's been taken care of.
okay. All right, no other questions from council?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the final amended land development plan for Lennar and PA LLC, location 2375, 2233, and 2207 State Road, tax parcel 2-65-22, 2-64-138, 2-64-13 be approved as presented. And with the stipulation that you're going to follow through with what you committed to tonight, with taking care of the residents, taking care of the problems that are down there now. Those problems have to be done. Our township engineer will be working together with Lennar to make sure, and the residents to make sure those things are done.
Correct.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. All right, good luck.
Great. Thank you very much for your
Yeah.
time. Appreciate
We
it.
need to really put our feet to the fire. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is consideration signing documents for the BSB housing at 3055 Mechanicsville Road, which is the 3-story, 40 residential unit for our senior citizen veterans on Mechanicsville Road. Mr. Pizzo, do you have this?
Yes, as council will recall, you granted the land development approval for this project earlier this year. My office has prepared the land development improvements agreement, the land development agreement, and the stormwater management agreement for the project. They have been signed and returned by the developer together with the required escrows, all of which have been posted and are in order. I think some of you were able to attend the groundbreaking for this building, which occurred a couple weeks ago. They are anxious to get underway with what would be a very worthy project of 40 units of affordable housing for senior citizens with a preference for veterans. The agreements are in order and acceptable for your consideration for approval this evening.
Okay, is there any questions from council? Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve.
So, second?
Presented. Mr. Blair, Mr. Sloan, first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, passed. Okay, get that rolling for our veterans, thank you. Okay, number 8 on the agenda, consideration of resolution for the Sewage Facilities Act in reference to 3674 Grandview Avenue. Mr. Pizzo, do you have this, or?
I'd be happy to take it if Mr. Gans would like. Again, this is pro forma, as you were asked to do with various land development projects in the township that you have previously approved. The developer is then required to, as part of his or their plan approval, get the approval of the Department of Environmental Protection for their sewage facilities planning module. In this case, the resolution is the standard form that is required by DEP. I believe Mr. Gans will confirm that everything to date is in order for the project. The resolution is in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening.
Okay, any questions from council in reference to this?
Mr. President, could I make a
Yeah.
editorial comment? If you look at your packet, this is a 1/4-inch thick set of documents.
Yes.
For one sewage connection to a single-family home. I think it's outrageous.
Okay, well, it's the country we live in today. I don't know why it is. It's because of legalities, I guess, right? One connection. All right, well, it's got to be done. Is there, do you have any, you don't have any, everything's standard besides that, right? Okay. Any other questions from council? Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll put the motion up for the resolution for 537, PA Sewage Facilities Act for property identified as Carly's Castles LLC, located at 3674 Grandview Avenue.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, first, Ed Takmasian and Mr. Sloan. All in favor?
Vote aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay. I'm gonna go to sign here. Covered up my agenda. Okay, number 9 on the agenda is consideration of the reduction for permit fees for the Bensalem School District located at, for Faust Elementary, 2901 Bellevue Drive. And it looks like they're requesting 50% off for inspecting the fire alarms and application electrical permit fees from $1483.50 total to $744. Is there any questions about this? This is what we try to help out the school district in this way.
I know we've addressed this in the past, and I can't remember. I see they didn't try for the reduction on the state surcharge. Do we do the reduction on the township surcharge? I can't remember. Mr. Pizzo, do you recall?
We did do that. The state
did.
surcharge is the one that cannot be waived.
Right,
But
but
in
we
this
did
case, we have.
previously waive the township one.
I believe so.
Okay.
If not, I'll make up the $2 on the school district.
It's minor, but I'm just trying to make sure.
$4 and $2. So we'll, all right, is that on the record that Mr. Pizzo's going to pick up $2? That's what I heard. That's what I heard. That's an unusual situation. All right. Okay. All right, does anybody want to make a motion that we're approving this for our school district?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Clary? Okay. Mr. Sloan at first, Mr. Clary a second. All in favor?
Vote aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, so it's approved. Okay, number, no, let's see. 10, sorry. Consideration of permit reduction for Holy Ghost Prep Mothers Guild, which is November, they're getting a free advertisement here too, but it's November 9th and 10th on their campus on Bristol Pike. Mr. Pizzo, a lot of this is just that they want the bond to be reduced from 10,000 to 5,000. Does that really have a?
That's correct, Mr. Knowles. This is what's being asked for, the same waivers the council granted last year. In the case of the bond, they're not being required to put up $10,000. Our special events ordinance would require them to post a $10,000 bond. In this case, they're asking to only be required to post a $5,000 bond. The Department of Public Safety is fine with that, and so the administration is recommending that reduction. The $300 for the special event permit itself would be a reduction from $600. That would be an out-of-pocket cost, as would the inspection fee for the tent, which would go from $260 down to $130.
So there's a reduction of half of 130 and
So the out-of-pocket costs that the township would be collecting are $430, and we would be reducing the size of the bond that's required from $10,000 to $5,000 on the face.
Previous years. Okay, is there any questions, or someone make a motion that we approve this?
I'll make the motion that we approve the reduction of fees 50% for the
doing that as an all-night, or?
Mother's Guild Craft Show.
Is that a conflict
You know
of
what,
interest,
I
or?
knew that was going to come up.
I'll second.
You pay your tuition, right, sir?
I did, yes, I did.
Okay. So we have Mr. Technasian and Mr. Clary is the second. All in favor?
But
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so it's good. Okay. Number 11, we have a couple of these in a row here. We have request for waiver of curbs and sidewalks installation subject to a payment of a fee in lieu of, so the pay and fee in lieu of, and this is for Neil and Lisa Fadden, 4408 Elk. Lisa, is it?
Louisa.
Sorry. 4408 Elk Avenue. I imagine, Mr. Gansett, you're okay with this?
Yes, we recommend this, and the fee in lieu of would be $4,233.
Okay, and they're willing to pay that. Okay, so,
Let me ask you a question.
yeah, go ahead, Mr. Pazzo.
Mr. Pizzo? This is one of the requests for waivers. It says Feasterville, PA. Does have the zip code for Feasterville, Trevose, Feasterville. Should it be as such on our documents, since it's not a Feasterville property, it's a
Mailing address of Feasterville.
That's their mailing address.
Yes, the request does reflect the Feasterville Post Office, although 19053, I guess technically is Feasterville Trevose, but it does identify the tax parcel numbers 02017-067, which I believe is the proper tax parcel number. 02 would be the Bensalem indicator. But what we can do is ask the...
I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure whether we had to have a Feasterville Trevose on there, or if we can do it with just a Feasterville. Just want to make sure we do it right, that's all.
Okay, so that's good, right, Joe?
It's fine. It's clearly a Bensalem property, but thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Clary.
By the tax parcel. Okay, any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion that we approve this, and it's in lieu of, so they are paying for the curbs and sidewalks?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have Mr. Clary, Mr. Taxation. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any against? Okay, so that's good. Okay, number 12 on the agenda, request for waiver of curbs and sidewalks, subject to payment of a fee in lieu of for Matthew Torres, 4219 Robert Circle. Mr. Gantz, this is something you're recommending?
Yes, it's the same situation where there are no curbs and sidewalks in the area.
Okay.
And the fee in lieu of would be $5,081.30.
Okay. All right, any questions from council in reference to this one? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make second it.
Okay. Mr. Clary, Mr. Tapagian. Okay, all in favor?
But aye.
Any against? Okay. Okay, this is consideration of escrow releases for Living Green Foundation Incorporated, release number 3 on phase 1. $31,453. I think it's pretty cool, actually, Joey, but I thought you were worried about that $2 over there. $31,453.98. Okay, so sweating over $2. Mr. Gantz, is this correct?
Yes, they had requested the amount of $90,434.42. We are recommending the value that you just mentioned of $31,453.98, subject to audit by the Finance Department.
Okay, and they have some issues that you want to make sure that they're complete, is that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Do we have any kind of timeline on when they're going to finish these? I mean, it seems to be primarily landscaping, although there are some other issues as
Well,
well.
we're certainly hope they would do them during the season.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it done. I mean, the buildings are done and functioning, but I guess it's landscape.
Well, 25,000 of that is the contingency.
Right.
We gave them half back, and we're holding the 25.
Okay, well, we'll make sure they get things done, and they are functioning over there with the new buildings.
Yes.
Okay, so does anybody have a motion to approve this release?
So moved.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Claire and Mr. Stagvasian, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Okay, we have public comment, okay, and we wanted to allow the first person to be the person who has our assistance here tonight.
Yes. Ms. Abbott?
First, want me first?
Yeah, you can go first, so this way we don't hold up you or, yeah, can you come up to the podium? If you wish to speak, you come up and identify yourself at the podium, please.
My name is Rhonda.
You have to
Right.
speak into the,
Yes.
My name is Rhonda Abbott.
did you get that?
Address also, please.
Yeah, your address, Rhonda?
My mailing address is P.O. Box 4644. And that's in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. 08034.
That's good. Okay, she can go and let us know what she wants to speak about tonight.
Question. Any employees
I was
work for
wondering,
Bensalem?
how many employees work for Bensalem Township approximately?
Mr. Pot? 200?
Who was appointed at Bensalem?
So who is appointed as Bensalem's ADA coordinator?
That would be our Director of Administration, William Samori. Our Director of Administration, William Samori. C-M-O-R-E-Y.
He was appointed.
So that's the ADA appointed coordinator?
He functions as our ADA coordinator, that's correct.
When was he appointed?
When was he appointed?
He's not appointed. We don't have an appointed employee. Mr. Samori, as the Director of Administration, wears several hats. Chief among them, obviously, overseeing the township administration. He also serves as the township's community development coordinator and the community's ADA coordinator, among other things.
Under Title II of the ADA.
Under Title II of the ADA,
Have 50 or more
if you
workers.
have 50 or more employees,
You should have had appointed
then you should have an
ADA
appointed ADA
coordinator
coordinator.
and had an ADA
And
grievance
also
policy.
an ADA grievance policy.
So about 2 weeks ago, I was here. 2 weeks ago, I was here in the building, The workers told me, we don't have an ADA coordinator. Shock.
I was shocked that the building did not have an ADA coordinator when I was here 2 weeks ago.
I just curious, I don't understand how you could build this beautiful building and just forget about ADA and responsibilities under Title II of the ADA.
Well, if that's a question, the answer is that the law requires the township to designate at least one responsible employee to coordinate ADA compliance. The township has done that. Mr. Samori oversees township's ADA compliance. Different facets of ADA compliance are done by different employees at different times, depending on what the ADA issue may be. But generally, Mr. Samori is responsible for making sure that that is done.
According to those employees that I met here 2 weeks ago, and Cynthia Terlicki was there too, so we don't have one. So I would like to get a copy of your ADA grievance policy.
I don't have a copy of a policy, but I can be happy to provide it.
That was my second problem. But my first problem was that June 7th, I tried to be a customer at a jewelry store named G. So
Gets out? Jewelry store?
they discriminate against me. I have no patience for a deaf person to shop in the store when you need the help. You can't look at something in the case. You have to have their help. That's the way it works in a jewelry store. So I wanted the police officer to give me incident number. The officer came, just made it worse. Don't understand about effective communication for the deaf. Just make it worse. And he didn't stand up for a deaf person's right to have access, equal access and enjoyment of goods and services. They don't know what they're doing.
I don't know that what you're suggesting is the responsibility of the Bensalem Police to make sure that you have adequate access to the jewelry store or any other store. The incident, as it was reported to me, was that the proprietors of the jewelry store called the police to deal with a disorderly person.
That's
Our police were dispatched. Our police worked with you. Our police provided you with every opportunity to work with them both at the scene and here subsequently at the township building, both in terms of
That was true, I wouldn't be here.
both in terms of the events that took place at the jewelry store, as well as your dealings with the Bensalem Police. You were afforded the opportunity to have an interpreter. You were afforded the opportunity
That's
to
not
file
true.
a complaint.
That
with
is absolute lie. I was given an opportunity to have an interpreter by who?
You have an interpreter here this evening. Our police explained to you at the time.
Because I asked for one.
Our police.
I asked for one.
And we provided it. And our police told you, consistent with their investigative policies, that if you needed an interpreter, one would be provided. But again, you weren't under arrest, you weren't being arrested, you weren't being detained.
I agree with what he's
And therefore,
saying.
there was no reason to provide you with Miranda rights or anything of that nature. And I don't want to go too deeply into what is obviously a police matter, but since you're here and taking our police to task, I feel the need to at least defend them to the extent I can. But this was a police matter that really shouldn't be discussed publicly. I'm more than happy to discuss it with you privately now or at any point in time in the future. You certainly haven't reached out to me as the township's attorney to discuss any of these issues, but I would be happy to do that with you at any point in time.
I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what your role is here. I don't want to meet with you in private. I just want to say the jewelry store didn't call the police. I don't have a phone. I had to ask a stranger to call the police on my behalf. And you're so secretive here. I can't even get a copy of the incident report. That's really secretive. There's no
Ma'am?
transparency. But I got a copy that says that I, a deaf person, was verbally told that I couldn't go to the jewelry store. Verbally. That's not effective communication. And I did nothing wrong. There was no crime. You should be protecting access to people with disabilities under the state and federal anti-discrimination laws. Federal being the ADA, state being the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act. This incident's not resolved.
Ma'am, have you reported your engagement with the people it gets out to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission?
He's asking me that question. Why are you asking me that question?
I'm interested in knowing if that's something that you did as part of the outgrowth of either your interaction with the people at Getzow or your interaction with the people here at Bensalem Township.
Okay, he's asking me if I reported to the PHRC, right?
Yes.
Again, I just see a name over here. I don't know what your role is here. But you know what would be really nice and professional? If I could get a copy of the incident report. I mean, that's fair grounds.
Well, and in that regard, and you're suggesting that we're somehow secretive or that we're somehow trying to keep that from you.
I don't get it. I don't have a copy.
There's a law in
I'm not used to that.
There's a law in Pennsylvania, and you being a resident of New Jersey, you may not be aware, but there's a law in Pennsylvania called the Criminal History and Information Records Act, CRIA, C-H-I-R-A. The County of Bucks has been sued and has to pay out, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $67, $70 million for allegedly violating that law. And what the law tells the Township of Bensalem and other law enforcement agencies in the Commonwealth is that we cannot turn over to you a copy of the incident report that you're asking for. In years past, that was something that could be done, but under the CRIA law, the Township is not permitted to turn that over. So we're not doing that to you because you have a disability. We're not doing that to you because we're secretive. We're doing it because the law does not allow us to turn that record over. And that has been told to you both orally and in writing.
Excuse me. Maybe the reason why you don't want me to have the incident report is because what the officer wrote, I'd even find more things to be upset about. Maybe that's why I'd be more upset. But about 2 Mondays ago, I was here, and they told me I had to pay $10 for a copy of the report. I said, that's expensive. Maybe in New Jersey, you just pay for the page. And then this woman is saying, I'll pay for you. I said, no, thank you, but no. Then after they say, I'll pay $10, then they do the reverse and say, no, you can't have it. It don't make any sense. You got it right here. The police officer verbally told me I can't go back there.
Well,
Your police department enforces discrimination.
What probably happened, Ms. Abbott, is that automobile accident reports are not covered by CRIA. So very often, residents will come to the township building and ask for a copy of an incident report involving an automobile accident. They need that to get their car fixed or to deal with their insurance companies. The fee for that report, I guess, is $10 or whatever it's set in our township fee structure. So that is something that's routinely done at the window over on the other side of the building. Subsequently, someone must have realized that it wasn't an automobile incident report that you were requesting, but an incident report that involved disorderly conduct in this point, and subsequently they would have told you, sorry, but you can't have that. again, that was all explained to you in writing as well in response to your right-to-know request that was submitted to the township.
Just 3 more quick things. You don't have to agree with me. You can stand
Reasonable
up
minds
for
can
your
always disagree.
discriminatory police department. You are enforcing discrimination. You are increasing the burden of a person with a disability who just wanted equal access and enjoyment of goods and services. Thank you for the idea of going to the PHRC. Well, I already know about it because I'm an informed person. And I don't know where you do, but where do you post in your building the mandatory PHRC poster about discrimination? I have a copy in my car. Where do you put it up in your building?
I honestly don't know, but again, I can find that out for you and provide it to you. All of the postings that are...
I don't think it's posted.
Well, again, I don't know where, but a variety of postings are required by the township by law for our employees regarding wages, regarding discrimination, regarding...
I know. I'm talking about the one for the public.
I understand. Again, I'm not sure where in the building things are or are not posted. We'll certainly look into that, and I can get you an answer, Ms. Abbott.
Yeah, sir, there's 1, 2, 3, there's about, I'm just saying, guessing, there's 8 people here. Of the 8 people here, does one person know where in your building you are displaying for the public the mandatory Pennsylvania Human Relations Act poster? Does one person of you 8 know?
I think it's posted in the rec room. There's postings.
I'm sorry if the answer that we've given you is not
It's supposed to be
satisfactory,
visible
but
to
the
the public.
answer is, we'll let you know. Short of one of us getting up and
It's
strolling the
just so you
halls,
know.
we'll get you that answer, ma'am.
You should know before, you don't have to get up and look, you should know about these things.
Again, reasonable minds can disagree what I should or shouldn't know. I'm sorry that I don't, but I'll find out and get you that information.
You're right, I need to go to the PHRC. It's not resolved, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks for coming out. Okay. Okay, public comment continues. Identify yourself and then...
Sure. My name's Angela Cascio, and I live at 6621 Senator Lane. I wasn't sure how to proceed with my question or my request, so I wanted to come this evening and speak in front of the mayor and the council to consider designating September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Bensalem. Each September, people everywhere go gold and raise awareness of the need for more research that leads to safer treatments and cures for childhood cancer. Many of our Bensalem families, including mine, are touched by childhood cancer. Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go. Tony Yost, 1617 Hampton Road.
Stephanie Yost, 1617 Hampton Road.
Unfortunately, all of our families have been touched by childhood cancer. In fact, 1 in 285 children will be diagnosed with cancer this year. Cancer is the #1 cause of death by disease among children, and only 4% of federal government cancer research funding goes to pediatric cancers. So Go Gold for September is similar to what you do for October with breast cancer awareness. So I'm not sure what Bensalem, and I know we have a great community. I know we do things. I believe the police force maybe does some things to support and promote awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Some of the things for Go Gold for September include changing the lights on government buildings, possibly adding gold to the websites. I know you guys aren't school district related, but it also could involve some things with the school system. I'm not sure the timing of the concerts at the amphitheater, but if the mayor could make a proclamation declaring September gold for pediatric cancer awareness. We have many families in this community affected by this, and it would show support to those families and also awareness of what the families are dealing with.
Do you by any chance have a copy of a proclamation that somebody does that could be given to the mayor? It's something we do and would do, and it is important.
I can absolutely get that. I know he does a podcast as well. I'm not sure what the appropriate forum for it would be.
Yeah, we have to get it rolling pretty quick now. It's the 26th here, but
I completely understand.
September?
It's for September. I was gonna come earlier, but the meetings were canceled.
Mayor, do you want her to get a hold of Dawn Davis and try and get the things going that way, or Amanda at the Township Building, and Amanda would be able to help with
Amanda,
that?
what's her last name? I'm sorry.
McDonald, I believe it is, Amanda McDonald, yeah.
Okay. I know it would. Okay, I know it might be a slow rollout for this year, but if we could get some things in place this year and then maybe build on it from, I know the high school does a cancer awareness football game. Schaefer collects money during the lunches for a lemonade stand, but if we could do like a more coordinated effort in the community.
Yeah, we had a cancer event here about a month ago, right?
That was Relay for Life, and that's amazing, and and I know the residents go above and beyond.
I know, she came to Rotary first and spoke, and then we...
Unfortunately, Relay for Life mainly raises funds for adult cancers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so pediatric is a little bit different, and we don't get nearly the funds and support
Yeah,
that.
we'll do anything we can, I'm sure.
This is a good starting point.
It's called Go Gold for Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, and the awareness month, it's September. I will do that. Would you guys like to add anything?
I just want to say that the high school she was diagnosed when she was in 9th grade. The high school has been very supportive. They the football team for the last 2 years has done a gold event. The softball team, which she was a member when she was diagnosed, has done a gold softball game every year, which I have requested somebody from the township to be a representative for the last 5 years and has gotten no
We did
response.
this past year. We actually did. We had representatives this past year. We had some council members.
I
attend this
apologize.
year.
I apologize, my fault. But we're just looking for support.
That's
There
okay,
is
we'll
a
do what
lot
we
of
can, yep.
communities that do it.
Yeah, we're 100% behind it. I mean, you know, it's
And
a good
that's why it's
thing.
good to work with Amanda, because she can make sure that the council's aware of what's going on. She works together with the mayor and Dawn Davis, so you get it to her. We
Is
have
there
two.
contact, I'm sorry to interrupt, is there contact information for her that I can leave with tonight so I can start
Yeah,
getting some
Debbie.
things together?
Yeah, we can get Amanda's
Where's
number.
Debbie?
There's Debbie, she just left.
That would be fantastic.
Debbie stepped
Debbie
away
will be
already.
right back. You give her the information, and she'll get you guys together.
That would
Get
be
you in touch.
fantastic.
Just
Yeah,
wait
just-
here for her, and when she comes back, we'll get your information.
Okay, great. I know Bensalem's an awesome community. They always support, and I know, you know, with a coordinated effort that the residents will, you know, do an awesome job. So,
Okay.
and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Ellen Windsor, 3232 Azalea Avenue. I've been up to this board several times about this property on Lincoln Highway and Bristol Road. It was the old Bridges Flower Mart. They started dumping wood chips in there again, and now they have furniture out in front of it, and it really looks like a dump, and I think it should be considered a blighted area. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
What's it, Old Lincoln Highway and what?
Old Lincoln Highway and Bristol Road.
Okay.
Well, Bridges
Yeah.
Flower Mart used to be. Thank
We
you.
gotta get it cleaned up. Okay, thank you.
I'm Eileen Keith. I live on Rosalie Avenue. One thing I'd like to thank council and the employees of our township for your service. Thank you very much. Last summer, I requested when the companies were doing the sewer project at Cornwell's School and the wetlands project, the sewers on Forest Avenue and Ogden Avenue. And I noticed they were replacing the curved curbs on those streets where there is a sewer grate. Then I noticed all of the curved curves in Eddington, and most of them are falling apart. I'm requesting that they be replaced. I already spoke to Councilman Ed about it last summer, I think. I forget. Yeah, last summer. I think you were the one who came out and looked at them. I forget the other people that I did ask about it, but I was recently told that they were going to be replaced in the spring of 2019, but that has come and gone. And I would like to know if that's anything that's going to be happening in the future for Eddington.
Is this the curbs around the storm drains?
On every
Yeah,
corner
the storm drain
in
curbs.
Eddington, because on every corner,
Yeah, I know, I lived in it.
we don't have curbs in Eddington. There's very few
Yeah.
street curbs, which is another question I had. There are curbs on School Lane and West Bensalem and parts of Forest. And now Ogden just got curbs. But in the rest of Eddington, there are no curbs. And I would like to know, I called many people at the township building, and I'm asking older neighbors, and I'm not really getting any answer why we don't have curbs on our streets in Eddington.
Yeah, well, Ogden Avenue, everything was done under a phase. That was one of the phases for Eddington on the stormwater.
Oh, yeah, I understand that was
That's one
a
of the
phase.
phases. Now, we're going to go into phase two, do the engineering and everything, and we'll see if we get it into the budget, phase two. It was very expensive on Ogden Avenue. We got that done, and that was one of the phases to get done there. That was one of the worst parts, where the water was coming off Bristol Pike and comes all the way down towards that little creek. So we got that done this year. I don't know who told you that they were promising you in 2019 other curbs.
I'm not talking about curbs throughout. I was just last summer requesting that since the company that was putting in these curbs, wherever there was a sewer grate, was replacing these curbs with brand-new curved curbs. They're curved. They're only a small part of the corner. And the ones at Rosalie and Forest, all the trucks that came all last summer to do the sewer project and the wetlands project, all those trucks went over our curbs that are at Forest and Rosalie, and they are falling apart completely. They are destroyed.
So I said the curbs at the stormwater grates on the corner. Right.
Challenge that when I was down there.
On the corners.
On the corner where the
Yes.
grates are. Yeah, I know where
The
you're talking.
curbs that she's referring to is, it appears as if there was a buildup of blacktop. We don't have legitimate curbs down there at that particular, and we don't have legitimate curbs per se as we know it. And, of course, as it came up, it's a budgetary issue to try to incorporate them and whether or not we can or we cannot. And what was helping just with the additional blacktop curbing that was down there was just helping direct the water runoff into the drains a little bit better. And
Take a look at it. Normally, curbs are very, very expensive, and we normally budget those things and put them out to bid. Obviously, that wasn't on,
The ones on your street, are
no,
they made out of asphalt or made out of cement?
Budget stuff.
Cement.
yeah.
He said- she said
Cement
they're
and
made out of
stone.
cement.
The ones on my street are 30 years old.
Yeah, I
Cement.
It
The ones that
looks
I
to
saw
me
was
like
blacktop.
cement and stone. It's all crumbled.
Yeah.
And I even saw one in my neighborhood that's covered with grass. So they are all over my neighborhood, these
Yeah,
curved curbs, and they are all falling apart.
Okay.
They all need to be replaced.
It's the stormwater curb. It's curbs for the stormwater. It's not street, Mayor, it's not street
No.
curbs.
Correct, that's what he was saying.
Curbing for the stormwater.
Curbs and
At the
sidewalks
drains.
at the houses is the responsibility of the homeowner. So if the township were to do it, the township would do it and lien the property of every house in Eddington to put in curbs or to put in sidewalks. It's not the responsibility of the township to put in curbs where there are no curbs. It's the responsibility of the homeowner.
So you're telling me that probably the curbs on School Lane and West Bensalem that take up that entire street, when that was done, it was before 30 years ago, those people paid for that curb.
That I'm not sure. That's 30 years ago. I wasn't on this board 30 years ago, so I don't know.
Mhm.
But Mr. Gans is going to have Quentin check into
Yeah, I would
that.
like to know
Why
the
don't-
history
Why don't
of
we
that.
explain it by tonight?
No,
When
not
somebody
tonight,
come
but-
in for sidewalks, in lieu of, they didn't have to, but they had to pay for it. They had to pay the township anyway.
And we did that tonight. Somebody came in, they wanted
Yeah,
to
I
waive-
wasn't here for that, and I have a question. Yeah, what is that all about?
Well, because if one person gets, say you're building an addition or you have a new construction house on a lot, on an individual lot, say like Rosalie, I don't think there's any lots there, but if someone put curbs in front of their house and sidewalks in front of their house and no one else on the street had curbs, then the water would run off their curbs and go into other people's yards. So if the complete neighborhood or street doesn't have curbs and sidewalks, we don't require them to put curbs and sidewalks with new construction, but we require them to pay in lieu of, in case any time in the future, we could do the whole street, that we would have the money to do in front of their house. So that's basically, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct, right?
So basically, they're paying for it in advance in case it ever
In
has
case
to
we
be
need
an
it,
expense.
because we can't have them put them in
Okay.
now, because if one person puts in a curb in front of their house and a sidewalk, then the water would run off that curb and have nowhere to go.
And it's not only that, it's the safety, walking off
Yeah,
the
walking,
sidewalk
so-
onto the grass or onto something else that you take.
Yeah, sometimes the
chances
sidewalks
of
to
that,
nowhere.
so.
But I understand the curb, I don't know, is that the proper term, curbs, for the storm drains? The curbs. There's U-shaped curbing.
They are
Radius.
curved.
Yeah, they're curbs. Okay, I thought maybe there might be another term. And there's cement, and they are deteriorated. They're deteriorated in other spots too. The one at Finley and Clovernook is
All right, well,
deteriorated too.
we'll look at them and give the mayor a report of which ones are.
Deteriorated, which ones, and look- and
needs repair.
specifically look at the one at Rosalie and Forest.
Rosalie and Forest. We have
It's been
that, right?
damaged.
Rosalie and
Yes,
Forest.
yes, okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, we had a fatality in my neighborhood in March, and another fatality just a few weeks ago at Humeville and Kings Avenue. Is there any way we could have sidewalks all along Humeville Avenue? There's some near Forest Avenue, and there are some at Village Green, but it is very dangerous on Humeville Avenue. And since I've been living here for 30 years, I have noticed many more pedestrians now than there were even 10 years ago. And there are not many sidewalks on Humeville. The rest of Bristol Pike was never completed either when it was done in Andalusia, and all the way up to like before Tomlinson. It was never completed. What can we do as neighbors to help make that happen for Bristol Pike, to complete that? It looks so nice down by Holy Ghost, but then it's gone. There's no sidewalks at Woodbine, Lavender, Finley, or at Virginia, all the way to Street Road. A lot of people are walking now and taking SEPTA. Now we have SEPTA in Bensalem. And
That was also a phase, from Woodhaven Road down to City Line. That was one phase that we got some help with. We got some grants, and the township put a lot of money into it. Up going north, that's another phase. That hasn't, but what happened was, when the charter school put theirs in, the school, they built the school, they were made, council made them put the sidewalks and curbings in. Same with Holy Ghost. When they improved their property, they were made to put that in. So if somebody would do something along there now, that you could tell them they had to put the sidewalks in. Otherwise, we either had to assess the properties and tell them they had to put sidewalks in, or the township has to come out with a plan.
Well, Unionville Road is a state road.
State highway, yes. We'd have to get permission for the state, of course, but it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. All it takes.
It's not, but Mayor, as you'll recall also, and the resident may not be aware, When we did the first phase of Bristol Pike, which was Andalusia from Woodhaven to the city line, which was part of a township initiative to create more of a village feel for Andalusia. And the decorative street lights and the sidewalks were put in for the length. The township encountered a lot of resistance from a lot of the property owners who were involved because, as is true on the sections of Bristol Pike that you're talking about, you have some businesses right now where there are no curbs, where their parking lots or the access to their property are completely open from one end of the frontage to the other. And now, and in some cases, they have signs. And what you're talking about to them is, okay, now we're going to come along and we're going to change the way you get in and out of your property, sometimes to the detriment of their business. And their sign that's been there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years is now going to have to be moved or relocated or replaced, all at considerable expense and large amounts of it to the property owners. So it's not just as simple as getting a couple of bags of Quick Treat and starting to pour sidewalk. There's right-of-way issues that have to be dealt with. The impact on each of the individual properties have to be dealt with. And when we did that section of Bristol Pike, the mayor says it was one phase. Well, it was one phase, but it was done in sections because between dealing with PennDOT, dealing with the property owners, and then the contractors going out in what are older sections of the township to dig, and there are utilities, there are gas lines, there are electric lines. It is incredibly expensive. It is incredibly time-consuming. And candidly, the property owners involved aren't always as willing to see it happen as everyone else in the community might be. In some cases, eminent domain had to be involved because the rights of way weren't necessarily a straight line all the way down. So when you're talking about putting those kinds of sidewalks in, it's certainly a worthwhile discussion, but there's an awful lot to it, a lot more than just, as I said, getting a couple yards of concrete and going out and pouring.
Right. Well, if it would take a long time or be very challenging, I think it would be worth it in the end to have safer streets.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
safety is the most important thing, and with people
I
walking.
drive that stretch of Bristol Pike in front of Holy Ghost and School Lane every day, and it's lovely. That stretch is lovely, and I can't wait until things start to expand. But once you now move past the new Holt Center and you start to get in front of Belly Busters and you get in front of the gas station and you get in front of the small strips, 2 or 3 stores that are there.
St. Charles Church is a good example of us trying to work in that big bank and everything that goes up over there to the sidewalk. We're engineering all that. We're trying to look at where we can get it done and where we can't. Without, you know, my father had a saying, if you have enough money, you can make water go uphill. So that's what we have to do.
Right.
We have to have enough money.
And just because a business has like taken over and made their driveway or whatever, their entrance be the entire length, like say, a real long amount of, like a big space, it doesn't mean that legally it has to be that way all the time. Just like if you're going to put curbs into a street, you're probably going to cut off 36 inches or a couple yards of each property just to put the curbs in. So that's, people think that's their property, but it isn't. I've been told that where the grass meets the street is not my property. The township could take, so many,
Well, it's your property. but
whatever
there's-
it is, whatever the amount is, I don't
It's
know.
actually your property, but there's an easement for
An
utilities.
easement, right.
Yeah, but it's still your property, though. You still own the property to the
Right.
street. But the township and other utilities have an easement to go work in those areas. So if someone's burying gas lines or electrical lines, they don't need your permission. But, I just put new sidewalks in front of my house, and I had to pay for them, you know what I mean? Because the sidewalks originally were put by the developer, deteriorated. Some of the reason why is because I threw salt on them when I shouldn't have, but whatever. But so I had to pay the price and redo the sidewalks. But they have a right to it, but you still own that property. It's just that there's easements in
Right.
a certain distance that they have rights to do work.
So what is the easement for businesses?
Well.
The
there is-
same distance?
No, it could be done. It could be done in front of
Yeah.
the business. He's just saying that they would fight it, that's all.
Sure,
So
I'm
it
sure
just
they
makes it-
would,
It makes it more
because-
complicated, that's all.
Well, whenever you're changing something,
Yeah, they could do
not
it.
everyone is
If-
happy.
If you had the money, we could do it.
I'm sure a lot of people would not be happy. And another thing I was asking my neighbors, I'd like to see a town watch in my neighborhood, so I am working on that. I think we need one. There's a lot of ATVs that run up and down my street and at Cornwall School. So
We'll have our police get in touch with you if you want to start, or you know people. We'll have our police get in touch.
I'm
with
looking for someone to
they
take
coordinate
over,
it?
and I did talk to the police,
Oh,
so
okay.
they
Yeah, because we're
told me when
interested
the
in that.
meetings are, and I do want to get our neighborhood involved with that if that's at all possible. There is a no ATV sign on Gravel Pike. I think we could use that in the surrounding streets in my neighborhood. It's a special sign. It says no ATVs, because I had one go down my street today. And
They don't care.
it won't be long before they're going in Cornwall School again, because that's their special
I
spot,
live in
the
June
dirt
Avenue,
bikes.
And they're right up and down my street all the time. So it doesn't matter. We had a person that was killed being on an ATV over by the old avenue over in that direction because they were riding one and it hit a car and somebody passed away on that. I mean, there's a point where, you know, if our police officers could catch them, they could do something about it. Problem is getting to them when they go off-road and the police can't get to them.
And we made an ordinance that they can confiscate them now, and we tried to make it tougher, but it's hard, because
I think-
parents let them have them, and parents let them ride wherever they want, so it's difficult. You have to, it's a police matter at that point.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thanks for coming out.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Elliott. I'm on 1718 Woodbine Avenue. I hate to keep bringing this subject up, but Mayor, has there been any progress on the water situation from the golf course?
I'm sorry. The golf course is being surveyed as we speak. We're anticipating putting in a basin on the golf course before it comes, so it doesn't come down to the street off the golf course.
Right.
I think it's already been done, the surveying part of it. Now it's design. So, yes, to answer to your question, yes.
Good, I'm glad to hear that, because we have the 30-inch pipe coming down off of the golf course, down Woodbine Avenue, a 30-inch pipe coming down June Avenue behind the houses into an 18-inch pipe. You don't have to be a rocket science to say that's not going to work. And then it goes into a 24, and then a 36, and the pipe at the end is squashed. You had the surveyors out there or the engineers out there, and they put the cameras through it, and they saw so far in that the pipe is completely collapsed.
Hey, Ron, is that right? Is Quentin's
Quentin,
not here?
he left. Is there any?
I know, we ordered it to be done. I ordered that. Get out there, get inside the pipe and let us know what's there. I thought they told me it was clear.
Well, they dredged it out, so it got cleaned out, but then they found out that it was collapsed at the end of the properties there that
Ron.
are being built.
Did you make a note of that? Because they told me that was an open pipe.
Which means there's 4 properties, so-called 4 properties there on Woodbine and Humeville that are being built. 2 houses are done, one's done, one is almost done, okay? They can't get any equipment back there to clean off that so-called back lot because they can't go over the pipe. It'll collapse even
I'll
more.
go back at it, but I ordered them to go to the pipe, TV it, and let me know. Ron, I was understood that pipe was open.
I will check it out.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that.
I understood the pipe was TV'd and clear. That's what I understood.
Well, now she's saying at the end it's smashed or something.
The end of the pipe, whether or not it's collapsed, it needs to be repaired. It will have to be replaced.
That's easy. I mean, just let,
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that the golf course is
Oh,
taking
absolutely.
care of that. And I'd like to know when and how the whole situation with the Snyder building got settled, because we never heard a word, because the last 3 council meetings, his agenda was postponed, canceled, whatever. Never came to any of the neighbors to tell us what was going on. They were out there one morning at 7:15 in the morning, on a Saturday morning, with a backhoe, banging up against the curbing, the existing curbing of my neighbors, to remove it, to replace it. And it's shaking our house. My husband came downstairs, went out, said to the guy, "Can you stop it? My whole house is shaking." The guy was very nice. He said, "Sure, no problem." Another one of their workers, he said he was a foreman, and he actually told us he was a grown man, came out and started giving us a lot of attitude and no respect whatsoever. All we asked him to do was to stop banging the backhoe up against. Because of that, our curbing in front of our house now has 2 or 3 cracks in it. We have to pay to get that fixed. They're not going to pay to get it fixed.
Ron, you writing this down?
Yes.
So if they did damage it, then they are responsible.
Oh, well,
So the
they're not
township
around.
engineer's gonna go out and check it out. That's what
Okay.
Ron's making a note on that now, so they'll check that also.
Okay, and as far as building restrictions on that back lot, apparently it's the middle lot now because it was rezoned or replotted. There's only 3 houses now. The back lot on the middle house, what are the building restrictions on that?
Well, nothing was ever changed as far as the lot lines. We received notice just this weekend for those of us that got our packets, that Mr. Snyder has withdrawn his proposal for the lot line change. So his initial, whatever land development plans he has, he's taken up with the administration, I believe, through the normal course of his business.
Mr. Paisley, I talked to you about this earlier. Can you advise us where we're at on this?
That's what we're trying to find out.
Mr. Paisley, I talked to Mr. Paisley.
Sure. And I texted Mr. Niren, is dealing with a family emergency that occurred, but asked him about the collapsed pipe. And he said the televising report does not indicate a collapsed pipe. He said he's been out during 2 rain events and the pipes were flowing. So, but Mr. Gans will follow up and Russ, you'll follow up. But the report at least doesn't indicate a collapsed section of pipe.
Well, they told us you could look in the back, on that back lot.
Again,
Okay.
I don't know who told you what. I'm just telling you what the report that the township receives says. So
Okay,
you're-
but as far as building, is there any restrictions on what can be built, if anything, back there?
That back lot has its own separate fee.
So, as Councilman Sloan properly said, the application to redraw the lot lines for the 4 lots and turn them into 3 has been withdrawn by the applicant. I was told by Mr. Niren earlier today that building plans have been submitted to the township to build a house on what I'll refer to as the middle lot between the other 2, and that those building permits are under review by the township engineer's office at this time. The 4th lot will have to be dealt with in some fashion because it cannot, without the lot line change, it can't continue to exist.
It's landlocked.
As a landlocked, so it can't be separated from the other 3. It will have to be combined with one of those 3 lots. In all likelihood, the lot that hasn't yet been sold, which would be the lot that's the building permits are in for at this time.
Okay, and if that happens, what are the building restrictions on the back part of that new lot now?
If those 2 lots are merged into a single lot, then it's just one lot. So It's a residentially zoned property, residentially zoned properties, one house on a residential lot.
Okay.
And it would be subject to whatever restrictions are in our township code.
So absent something else coming into the township from Mr. Snyder, based on what we have in-house at the moment, it would seem that the likelihood is, and again, Ron, Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, that those two lots will be merged into one, and that will just become the backyard of the lot with the new house.
Mr. Pizzo, would he still have to come in front of us for a lot line change for that?
No. No. Generally speaking, lot line changes are only required when you're adding lines to the map or moving lines on the map. But when you're erasing them, we generally encourage bigger and bigger properties. So merging lots together does not typically require a lot line change.
Right, and I think that was one of the issues originally, because he was trying to change the plot lines after the houses were built. And I didn't think that could be done. So, and as far as parking on Woodbine Avenue, and this is my last thing, okay, when they're working on that corner house, they have trucks and cars all down Woodbine Avenue, and then they park on the other side of Woodbine Avenue, and you can just about get through. There's people that come off of Humeville Road to turn onto Woodbine, either way, and they're doing 30, 35 miles an hour. Somebody's going to get killed. There should not be, and even now, with the curbing, you come around that corner, you're not going to see a car parked there until the last minute. So I really would like to have no parking along there.
I'll have the police look at that.
If we put no parking along there, it's going to go with the residents too. If you have a picnic or a party and people are parked there, they can't park there either.
Okay.
So that's.
But how far down would it extend all the way down Woodbine Avenue?
Distance from the intersection, maybe.
That's fine, we can look at, that's what the mayor said, he's gonna look at that. But the one thing that we always tell people, you gotta be careful, because when you do it, and then all of a sudden you have a picnic and somebody's parked there and they get a ticket, you get upset because of that. The same thing with speed trap. People say, I want a speed trap in my neighborhood, and most of the people who get the tickets are people who live there, and they get angry about that. So I
Gotcha.
understand what you're saying about that.
Right. I'm just waiting for the way, when all those cars and trucks were parked there, I was waiting for an accident to happen.
I've driven it.
And fortunately, it didn't. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Very nice tonight. Geraldine Ryan, 1702 Woodbine Avenue. I just want to ask you how it feels that you asked a builder to do certain things this council did, and he didn't do anything. Is this the type of builders we want in our township that has no respect for the neighbors that he's building around? Because he ignored everything you asked him at the last council meeting, number one. Number two, haven't seen or higher hair of Quentin. He took all our numbers, nothing's been done.
I have sent Quentin down there, I don't know.
Oh, he might be down there checking them, but he has not met with any of us neighbors from the last meeting.
I can say,
And if he told me the other day, because I stopped him, that he's too busy, well, if he's too busy, we need to hire somebody else to help. Because I feel as a resident and a taxpayer, we have been totally ignored through this whole process. And I still have dead trees that I'm waiting to get done. I filled out a complaint with Dottie, put it in our township. She got a call back. I've never got a call back. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think dead trees and maintaining your property is a civil problem. I think the township needs, if you can make me cut my grass at 18 inches, he should have to fix them trees back there that are ready to fall on our houses that are dead. He wants to take no responsibility. You bought this lot, now clean it up and make it safe. And it's your job as elected officials to do that for us. Because we've been ignored through this whole process. My husband's family's been here since 1950, through the politics and everything, and this is the worst I've ever seen it. My yard still gets water. He comes and tells me, well, I was here 2 hours afterwards. I don't care if you're here 2 hours after a storm. I don't want your muddy water in my yard. I cut my grass yesterday. It looks like a dust mask in there. I never get the mud out of my yard anymore. This is not fair to us. You are ruining my property value. At what point do I start to protect myself and have to go get a lawyer or something? Because I can't get help here. You've tried, and he just, as far as I'm concerned, he made you all look like a fool. You asked this builder that builds in our township to do something, and he went right behind your back and told you what he was going to do that night and did what he did. Pulled it, and he's going to build the house sideways if he has to. Is that the type of people we really want building and representing Bensalem Township?
Ron, I don't know how to explain this. What is going on? I don't know.
Nobody ever knows what's going on.
Well, I don't know because when I.
Well, why don't you come down and see? Why don't you come down and see the residents?
I've been down there when it's raining. I've been riding down there.
You have not been in my yard. You have not been in Shirley's yard.
I've been in front of your place when it was raining.
Have you been in the back? Did you walk
I have
for 300
not.
feet?
I have not been.
Did you go to Shirley's? Did you go to Elmer's? Did you go to West
I didn't go on
Bensalem?
anybody's property.
That's what I'm saying. Come here.
We have a gentleman here that's listening.
Yeah, and once again, I apologize. Russ Benner from T&M Associates. I do apologize for Quentin. Quentin had a family emergency. He had to leave the meeting and go home immediately. He did indicate to me that he will be scheduling a meeting with the residents this week to go over the issues. There are some storm drainage improvements that he's looking at down there. I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'll go out with Quentin and take a look at this matter.
2 months it took us. It's unacceptable. As a business, it's unacceptable.
Mrs. Wright, why don't you give him your address?
Quentin has all of our
Oh, he does?
addresses
Okay.
and all our phone numbers.
Or
We
maybe-
gave it to him the very
all right.
last meeting.
Perhaps they'll see you tomorrow.
This is ridiculous. My brother-in-law has built for 50-some years in Jersey, a AAA builder. This is totally ridiculous what we're putting up with. It really is. And I'm ashamed that things can't be accomplished faster. It's like the heck with us. He's going to get his money, and he's out of here. We are your employees. We pay taxes to live here. I'd like to know where else he's building and how many of his other people around his projects are unhappy with his projects. He goes to zoning, and he goes to zoning for 2 little properties by Warner's and down by Apollo's, and he gets it. I'm keeping an eye out on him. I'm telling you now, I will be everywhere against him, because as far as I'm concerned, he does not care about the residents of Bensalem Township. And it's your job to care about us. That's why we elected you.
We do, and we have.
I know, but
we have- Not all projects come in front of us because they go to the administration, to building and planning. They don't all come in front of us.
I understand that.
And you saw what happened when he came here.
Exactly.
We demanded things, he pulled it.
Right.
So we did our job.
He slapped us in the face.
We did our job, though. We did our job and told him what we wanted, and he decided, I'm not gonna do that, and he's going to go the other way.
So maybe we need to watch him a little more with other projects.
That's the administration, and that's what Ron Gans and Clinton and them are gonna do.
The cops can come all they want to my house. I'm not afraid. I was raised by cops. Will be there tonight, guaranteed.
Okay, does anybody else want to talk for public comment? Okay, seeing no one else come up with public comment. Okay, is there any other business? Ron, do you have anything else? I have nothing
Other than, Mr. President, everybody have a good Labor Day and relax and take a day off.
Okay. Okay, Lauren, do you have anything, or Mr. Fazio? Mayor, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah, wait.
I'm sorry.
You didn't give me a chance.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. I can understand any resident's frustration with issues when neighboring properties are causing your quality of life to be less than what you would hope for it to be. We've had a record amount of rainfall in this township this year, several inches over the norm. And I can tell you that, unfortunately, Quentin, who was here and isn't here to defend himself against suggestions that he's somehow not up to the job or not doing his job, there's nobody who does more for the residents of this township, particularly when there are rain events, than Quentin Neeren. We have a list of properties in this township that he goes out on a regular basis when there are rain events to observe, because we've received complaints or we've received reports. He's out there. He may not be ringing the doorbell to say, hey, I'm here,
but he's doing it. And he's doing it for the people of this township. He's out there trying to gather the information, trying to observe, trying to figure out solutions. The Woodbine Avenue situation is, yes, it's been one that has certainly been contentious for the neighbors vis-a-vis that builder. But as the mayor said earlier, the township's gone out and retained an engineer specifically for the purpose of identifying and designing a solution to keep rainfall from coming off of the golf course, crossing Huonville Road, and going over to your properties. That's happening right now. Plans are being reviewed, surveys are being done, and schematics are being prepared so that work can be accomplished. Township has sent people out there to televise the line. Now, you may have different information than what we're being told, but it's been done. We've gone out and looked at the lines and see what condition there are. And as far as we know, they're open and the water's flowing. We're looking at the situation regarding this builder, at least insofar as, are there still things that can be done? He's offered to do it. Now, he's received a less than warm reception from the neighbors, and he's received a less than warm reception from this council, which in part is why he withdrew his plans. And as Mr. Polari said, it shows that the 5 people up here did what it is you're asking them to do. They took him to task. They held him accountable. And ultimately, he said, well, all right, it's easier for me to just pull my plan rather than try and satisfy the neighbors and try and satisfy the township. But that doesn't give us the right to then go ahead and stop him from from otherwise building what he's allowed to build. You know, we'll continue to verify, we'll continue to make sure that he's doing what he needs to do. But the people up here have done what it is you've asked them to do. So there's no one simple solution. There's no magic switch for problems that, by your own admissions, have existed for years. Perhaps not like they are now, but again, there are any number of mitigating factors, several of which that I just rattled off, that have changed, that have nothing to do, the 5 people up here don't control the weather. They don't. They don't control, the 5 people, I thought I had the floor, sir.
You have the floor, but to a certain degree, I can take the floor.
Certainly, but I'm being spoken over. I'm not speaking over.
Don't interact with me.
I'm not attempting to, sir.
Complete your statement and we'll go on.
Okay.
It doesn't give him the right to change the grade of the property.
Mr. Knowles.
We're just in them.
Mr. Knowles.
He changed the grade of them properties by...
Mr. Knowles, I thought I had the floor.
That by law is not allowed.
Close public comment. You've had a lot of opportunity to speak.
Okay. All right. Things that were allowed to happen 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago have nothing to do with the engineer, have nothing to do with the mayor, have nothing to do with the 5 council people. But you all have to deal with those problems today, and they're being dealt with.
Okay, and we have, I appreciate that you want to defend the administration on this, and we try to do whatever we can.
I'm defending the township, not the administration, the township. Because the same aspersions are being cast on the 5 of you as they are upon the engineers and the mayor.
There's been problems down there, and you're going to go down there and we'll be there tomorrow. Okay, you're going to go down there with tomorrow, and we're going to make an effort to meet the neighbors and talk to them about the issues. And we've got to find out whether the pipes that are broken, who is replacing. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Pazzo. All right, Mr. Mayor, do you have anything else to add?
Well, Labor Day's coming. I hope everybody has a great, safe Labor Day. I hope that they enjoy the holiday.
Okay, Mr. Sloan,
Yes, back in November of 2018, the mayor recommended Mr. Farrell be appointed as our Director of Building and Planning. That decision was approved with the condition that he resign as council member of the Hatfield Borough Council. As of August 5th, he has not yet done that. Not only has he not resigned, but he is on the ballot for re-election this year. and has already won his primary election, which means that he signed petitions to get on the ballot for re-election. His name is still listed on the Hatfield Borough website. His name is still listed on the letterhead for the Borough of Hatfield. And so, due to his clear violation of the conditions of his approval and hiring, I put forward a motion that council request the resignation of Mr. Farrell.
And I'll second it.
I don't think that we can put a motion on without amending the agenda and putting it on there.
I think there should be some more investigation and see what.
What I can tell you is this. I was provided a copy of Mr. Farrell's letter of resignation, which I was told by Mr. Farrell was tendered to the Hatfield Board of Supervisors, or Hatfield Borough Council. I'd be happy to read it if you'd like. I have it pulled up here on the screen. I was also advised by Mr. Farrell that he filed to have his name taken off the ballot, and according to the Montgomery County Board of Elections, that request was filed and received on August 6th, and Salvatore Delicio Jr. is now running in Mr. Farrell's place as of August 22nd, 2019. So, I can't tell you why the Hatfield Borough Council hasn't accepted his resignation, assuming for a moment that, as Mr. Farrell told me, it was tendered. But assuming it was tendered, it's then up to the Hatfield Borough Council to accept it.
When did he send you that letter?
I don't know the date. I was provided with a copy in July and was told that it had been tendered prior to that, sometime subsequent to the discussion that was had here. I think you brought it up in February or March, Mr. Sloan, one or the other.
Something along those lines.
So let's say it was March. The letter was tendered sometime after that.
Yeah, I spoke to him too, and he said that he was resigning.
But why? What was the reason behind the delay?
And not just the delay, but then signing a petition to get his name up for re-election this year.
I can't answer those questions. I can only tell you that he's not on the ballot at this point in time, and that we have a copy of a letter of resignation. Again, I have it. It was given to me in July. I don't know the exact date. I can find that out from Mr. Farrell, or the mayor can find that out from Mr. Farrell, and we can let you all know when it was tendered to
I think it's disappointing that Mr. Farrell thinks that, our decision was contingent upon waiting 8 months for him to get around to taking care of his resignation.
Probation period he was concerned about to make sure that he was.
But he was way beyond the probationary period at this point.
Well,
I mean,
he's done what he was told to do, so it's,
but he was told to do it immediately thereafter we voted to appoint him.
He violated this council's directive.
Before we make
I
a
think he's
motion,
been.
before we make a motion.
A motion has been made and seconded.
But you got to amend the agenda. You just can't make a motion. You got to amend the agenda, and it's got to pass the amended agenda to put it on there.
Mr. Pizzo, is that correct?
That is the process that this board has followed for all the years I've been here. I don't know that that's necessary for Robert's rules, but that's the process that this board has followed for all the years I've been sitting up here.
I also want to see the information before I vote on something, not just go on one person's word that that's what they're saying.
Absolutely,
So
and
I
that's
think
why
that
I have copies here of the meeting minutes from August 5th, the election results.
Applied to me, Mr. Sloan.
And then Mr. Pizzo.
There you go,
I
Mr.
don't
Polari.
want it now.
Oh, so you want the information, but you don't want the
You
information.
knew you were going to do this. You should have supplied that to each one of the members on council, which you guys don't do. You go and do the things you want to do, which is perfectly fine.
I do
You have
my
the right to do it.
homework.
You can do that. But if you want us to vote on something, you would want us to give you copies of something we're asking you to vote on, correct? Don't you think?
Did you agree Did you vote in November that Mr. Farrell's appointment was
I
conditional
have
upon his
nothing
resignation?
backing up what you just said, and I'm not going to vote on something on your
He
word.
said he's resigned.
Mr., can I,
He's resigned, so I don't think it's affected his performance in any way. He said he resigned, so he
and
resigned.
let me
Mr.
respond.
Pizzo, if they can put the vote up, let's just put the vote up and do it. If you're saying that by Robert's rules they can do that, then let's do it.
And I guess let me respond by just stating, was there any follow-up since the point of when we took the vote to assure us that he had definitively resigned from?
When it was brought up the last time,
Right.
whether he was resigned.
Which was
there
February.
There was a discussion about him being in the probationary period, and he wanted to make sure that he was through the probationary period to keep his job. And I talked to him and said, listen, you agreed that you were going to resign. He said, I'm going to resign. I'm going to do it. I'm going to resign. That's what he told me. So according to Mr. Pizzo, he did resign. Now, I don't know what time and what lapse period happened there.
He resigned almost a year after we took the vote.
Mr. Tucknesian, let me ask you a question. Do you have copies of the documents that Mr. Sloan has? Were you supplied with those documents?
They are available online, sir.
Okay, that wasn't the question I asked you. The question I asked you is, do you have copies of those documents?
I have
Did you have
access to that information.
Did you have discussion with Mr. Sloan about this beforehand, that this was going to come up tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I-
and you had a folder with him about it too. But, so, and no one discussed this with me. No
Okay.
one talked to me before the meeting or called me.
Well, okay, and let me respond.
Yeah.
We didn't see any, it didn't appear as if he was active on the council until they were recently posted on the site, noting that he had attended a special meeting on August 5th, Mr. Polari. So there was nothing that we really had to show that he was, whether he was active or not.
But you're coming here and
And
asking
that-
me to vote
and
on
that was-
something that you're saying without me seeing the documentation.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that to you because it's not the right thing to do.
I don't think it's right
If you want me
either,
to
but,
see
you know.
something, but Mr. Pizzo says you're able to make, you have a motion and a second. If Mr. Pizzo said it's legitimate, then we can take the vote. But I'm saying right here and now, the way you guys are handling this and backdooring this in, to sneak this through and not.
Oh, no. I brought the documentation to pass around so you can see it.
You were with me, Mr.
Let me finish.
Okay,
You
finish.
did not supply this documentation to the rest of council. You kept it between you and Mr. Tucknesian for exactly this moment. So what I'm saying to you is that's a smack in the face to me as a councilman that I wouldn't do
And
to
as
you.
council president, you didn't discuss it with me at all, and I was with you.
Mr.
Right before
Pizzo,
the meeting.
you
You could have
don't
mentioned
think-
it to me.
So you don't think it's, why do I have to bring that?
Do they have the right to bring this motion up and us vote on this?
I would say it's up to the chair.
Okay. Well, I don't wanna-
But again, normally what you would do is ask for something of this nature, you would ask to have the agenda amended to place this question on, and because it is, I believe, and I haven't looked at it in some time, because you normally always amend the agenda, but I believe the Township Administrative Code says that that's the process that you guys do.
Okay, well,
That
they could
you
do
only
that
vote
too.
on
They-
things that are on the agenda, and if it's not on the agenda, you amend the agenda to add it before you vote on it.
Okay, I just find it a
So-
strange way to handle a personnel matter, and I don't want to see the township getting into litigation over a surprise
Well,
basic firing of an administrator.
I
over-
think the motion was to ask for him to resign,
Ask him to resign.
for
Oh,
whatever,
okay,
for
so-
whatever effect that
And
has.
for me to not see any backup paperwork or to see that this stuff is going on, I can't make a decision, a proper decision, so.
Again, had someone asked me, I would have told you that I have a copy of Mr. Farrell's resignation letter that's addressed to John Weirman, President of the Hatfield Borough Council, to Mayor Kaler and council members and the borough manager, saying, "It is with great angst I am writing this letter of resignation from the Hatfield Borough Council. My employer, Bensalem Township, is requiring me to resign my borough council seat because of a presumed conflict. This letter is undated, so you may accept my resignation when you find someone to replace my seat. However, I cannot attend any more borough council meetings as a councilman. We should all be proud of what has been accomplished in the past 25 years. Our taxes are low. We are one of the third lowest in Montgomery County. We have had minimal tax increases, blah, 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 all these many things of which he is proud. Hatfield Borough should be a model for other municipalities because of the way we partner with Hatfield Township for police services, park recreation, et cetera, et cetera. He's glad he was able to use his personal and professional expertise on the committees he was assigned to. He hopes his knowledge and expertise has given the Borough Council some useful tools in making decisions for their residents. Blah, 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 blah. It is in the fabric of his life. His wife and he made a decision to move to Hatfield Borough 29 years ago. It's a walkable community with many parks and trails. They are a borough of firsts, et cetera, et cetera. He's happy for what he accomplished in 25 years of service. In closing, thanks for being his friend, listening to him vent, and sharing the same vision for Hatfield Borough. Local government is not about being a D or an R. It's about helping our community. It's about maintaining a quality of life. Keep plowing forward, and he looks forward to being invited to the ribbon cutting of the new Hatfield Borough Municipal Building.
Okay, and we did agree that he should resign, but I personally don't think it was that, well, before we said he should resign, not resign as job. Resign as a borough council.
I understand that, but I've seen nothing, had no documents sent to me.
I'm not ready to do it.
And I'm not going to vote.
I'll vote on it, but I'm going to vote.
Yeah.
Mr. Pizzo, I have a question. Mr. Pizzo, can I?
Let me finish my statement.
Sure, go ahead.
I personally agree that because, you know, you had brought up the point that you didn't want him to be on Hatfield Council. I don't really think it was that much of a conflict of interest to begin with, and he has resigned, so you think that he should be punished because he didn't resign in time? He's done a good job here. I have interactions with his office. He's done a tremendous job. He's put in tremendous hours getting things together, so I don't think because of this, I personally wouldn't force a person to resign over this, but you may have a different point.
In terms of smack in the face, I mean, it's a smack in the face for the fact that I don't feel like my vote was really valued in the sense that he didn't resign immediately. And I have a question for Mr. Pizzo. Mr. Pizzo, if there was an individual on this board that resigned, would that preclude the other 4 individuals from not being able to have council meetings or manage business on a go-forward basis? Would there be a requirement, if there was someone that was to resign from this board, to fill that position prior to moving forward?
Not sure I entirely understand your question.
And I'm referring to the undated letter. It seems as if they're not accepting it based off the fact that he's not dating the letter because they're going to wait to fill that position, which I find kind of odd, right? Because he could still resign from that seat, and the board would move on with business without him.
We say he's not attending.
It doesn't have to, there's no prerequisite to backfill the position for him to effectively resign from the
He's
seat.
not attending meetings.
That's correct. Law in Pennsylvania, as it pertains to second-class townships, recently changed, and by recently, within the last couple of years. I'm assuming that the same changes were made to the borough code, but I can't say that with absolute certainty. But the laws were changed such that were one of you to tender your resignation from this board, it is a revocable act up to the point in time where the remaining 4 members of the board accepted that resignation. That's a change in the law from what used to be. So to the extent that Mr. Farrell gave them an open-ended, if you will, resignation, it was something that until the point in time that the Hatfield Borough Council accepts it, an open issue. Now, for second-class townships, you can't, the Hatfield Borough, the Bensalem Township Council couldn't leave a vacancy open forever. There's a period of time under which, irrespective of if it's an open-ended resignation and this board didn't act, there's a certain period of time, I believe it's 45 days, but it's triggered by, depending on when something was tendered and the like, But essentially, within 45 days, if you guys haven't acted and he hasn't revoked it, he would be deemed to have resigned, irrespective of anybody taking any official action. And then a clock begins to run to fill the vacancy. So, again, I can't speak to what the Borough Code says and whether it has similar provisions or not. But again, all I can tell you is that Mr. Farrell tendered his resignation. The letter that I just read to you, I am told, was given to the Hatfield Borough Council. What they did subsequent to that, I can't tell you.
The other thing we would need is to get what was discussed that night in the motion made, because the man had to go through a 6-month probation period, I believe it was. I wouldn't ask the guy to resign until his 6 months up and he's got the job, because it's not a permanent job until you go through that 6 months. So there are things that I would want to know.
And he's done a
is
good
that
job,
part.
so I don't know why you,
It's not even
because
that.
I feel disrespected of my vote, I'm going to fire a guy from his job or make him resign. He's done a good job.
It's not that. If a motion were made and he didn't stand up to that motion, then both of these gentlemen are correct.
Okay, but he's
They
resigned.
are correct. But I don't know, I don't have any proof of anything that
That's
you're
fair.
talking about.
That's
So
fair. I understand what
then
you're saying.
you want to make the vote, that's fine, but let's get the minutes, share that information with the rest of it, and let's do it at the next meeting or at the proper time if everything stands. To do it tonight, the way we're doing this, to me, is not the right way. I wouldn't do it to you, and I would hope nobody would do it to me, because it's not the right way to do things. We have to know that what we're voting on, what the real truth is and what the deal is.
I think we
and
should give him a
need
chance to
get the
defend
bottom of
himself,
it.
too,
Yes.
and explain what happened.
That's the only thing I'm asking. If you still want to take the vote, we can do that. You have the right to do that, I guess.
You want to amend to add to the agenda?
You guys decide what you're doing if you haven't already.
I'll tell you what, I would like to see this on the agenda for the next meeting, that we can discuss this further with copies of the meeting minutes from November where we approved with condition of his resigning. And then, I can definitely help to supply, the information that I collated for tonight.
Yeah, see, there was a time frame too. I don't know whether there was. Not that I know there was an anticipation he would
And for
resign.
that,
And that might have been, what the
and for
expectation
that, I
was.
thank you, because I think that's
Sure.
the fair and the right way to do it.
I just want to be fair to the guy too. I mean, it's just to ask him to
And
resign.
I think, and I also think that maybe he should come up in here and explain himself.
Absolutely.
I think he's got that ability to do
I-
that.
I
If we
would
take this
very
tonight-
much appreciate
Yeah,
that.
if we're not taking the time to know, if we're going to make a vote tonight, not give the guy to defend himself, again, it was not something I would do to anybody else, and I think that,
Okay,
I
so
don't think that you guys really want to do that.
Then I will withdraw the motion, and I'm requesting, Council President, that we add this as an agenda item for discussion for the next council meeting.
Okay. and
Do we
then-
have to put that in the form of a motion?
No, it's fair.
No.
He
No, we'll
he
do
does the
that.
agenda. so.
I'll do the agenda, and then we may have to have an executive session if it ends up being personnel.
And if it's
Understood.
not done, then you have the right to bring that up, because you put it on the record tonight, so.
Yeah, I'm going to do what's proper at the next meeting in reference to this. I want
Okay.
it all to come out and make a decision, but it may be an executive session if we're advised it's personnel matters or whatever. Okay, so.
you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so, Mr. Takmajian, do you have anything?
I just wanted to make sure Mr. Sloan was done with anything else he had.
Yeah, I assume you're done, I'm sorry.
The only other thing is, I hope everyone has a nice Labor Day holiday. Bensalem students went back to school today, so I hope they all had a great first day of school. I know some grades start tomorrow, and I'm hoping that everybody looks forward to a good school year. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Takmajian?
Just one business item. I noticed there was an item on the last Planning Commission meeting regarding Colmar Ave. Is that something that would come in front of us at some point? I believe there's something with the redevelopment authority.
No, in this case, under the requirements of the State Redevelopment Act, our Planning Commission is the one who votes to accept the blight report and authorizes the administration to set the wheels in motion to have the property either have the blight removed or the property condemned if they fail to either submit either to cure the blight or submit a plan acceptable to the township for the removal of the blight. So that clock is running. I believe that The plan is for the redevelopment authority to act on a condemnation motion, assuming that the property is not, the property owners don't do what they need to do, and we don't anticipate they will.
Right.
That the redevelopment authority will be voting to condemn either at their September or their October meeting at the latest.
Okay.
And then the RDA will condemn the property, clear the property, put the property up for sale. All of the costs that the RDA and the township have, including all the liens that we've had and our court costs, will attempt to get recovered out of the proceeds of a sale.
Now, excuse me a second, but Joe, I attended that planning meeting because I was concerned about this. And the wheels of government take a long time, I understand, but it seems to me that the planning commission voted in favor of blighting the property, which gives the redevelopment authority the authority to take the property. It's a process, but they're going to take the property, and their intention is to bulldoze the property and then sell it as a lot or something, and recover
Correct.
some of the money.
The township and the RDA believe that the structure is beyond repair at this point, at least. As the mayor said earlier, you spend enough money, you can make water go uphill. But probably the better expenditure would be to raise the existing structure, which is deemed to be unsafe, and sell the empty lot to someone who wants to build a house on it.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
I know that property has been an ongoing issue, so it's just nice to see that we're finally able to do something with it. Second piece is, I just wanted to thank the mayor for the support, as well as Chuck McMullen, Director of Parks and Recs, for Bensalem having a nice soccer kickball, so that's nice. I got a lot of feedback from residents how a neighboring community had one, and they were looking for one here in Bensalem, so I just wanted to say thanks for that. Third piece is just everyone have a safe Labor Day, and welcome back to school.
Okay, Mr. Polari, do you have anything to add?
Yes, as Mr. Sloan said, the kids went back to school today, and I just want to thank the Bensalem Police Department, the rescue squad, and our paid fire department for meeting the kids at each school, welcoming them back.
That's the right word.
To let them know that they're there for the kids, and that we're going to make sure that things stay safe. So I'd also like to wish everybody happy Labor Day, be safe.
Thank you.
Mr. Knowles?
Yeah.
If I could, just one thing.
You're going to speak again?
I meant to mention on a positive note, Bensalem Rescue Squad, the mobile stroke unit.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too, yeah.
Was placed into operation earlier this month. They've already had a call 9 minutes from curb to that patient being on the CAT scan inside of the ambulance and in contact with a neurologist at Jefferson. It's incredible, the lives that are going to be saved and the disabilities that might otherwise result from stroke, the length of time before treatment. It's going to be shortened, and it's going to improve the quality of life for so many people in this township. It is the first of its kind anywhere, and we are very fortunate, and Jefferson chose this community. They chose our Bensalem Rescue Squad, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I had a chance to see it myself, and hopefully I'll never need it, but it's nice to know it's there if any of us do.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzo. I'd like to thank Mr. Polari for bringing up the police officers meeting the children at school, and I think that is very important for our police to build a relationship with the children when they're young and understand they can trust them and they can turn to them if they need their help, which is a good thing. And like Mr. Pizzo also mentioned, the stroke ambulance basically does the MRI on site in someone's driveway. We're one of the first communities to have that, and to have I was at the presentation of that a few months ago, right? It was over here at the EMS, and we got to talk to the doctors at Jefferson and the administrators at Jefferson Medical School. Picked Bensalem because of their community volunteerism, the quality of the EMS, and the quality of our police force. And we were honored to be picked and have that thing. So if someone has a stroke or some issue like that, it's very important in the first few minutes that you have a chance and to think that you could be diagnosed in your driveway. I was particularly proud because my father graduated from Jefferson Medical School, and I was talking to the administrators there, and so to continue Jefferson helping Cornwalls Heights, what it used to be called, in Bensalem, made me particularly proud. But that's a great achievement. And that's online now and working, right, Joe? They actually used it yeah, it's so, not that anybody wants to have a stroke, but if you do, you have a better chance, you know. But listen, enjoy your Labor Day, and our next meeting will be September the 9th,
Make a
okay?
motion, we adjourn.
Okay. All in favor? Adjourn.